right, good evening. Calling the meeting of the Board of Selectmen, regular meeting to order on February 25th at 6:32 p.m. So in attendance is, besides Catherine and myself here at Town Hall, we have Dwayne Gates online. Okay, so first call to order, then Secretary's report. I unfortunately didn't get all the minutes to people in time for approval. So we'll table the approval of minutes from February 11th, regular special meetings of the 13th, 19th, and 21st. That's okay with all the selectmen?
Yes.
Table that. Okay.
Good with it.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Audience of citizens, we have 3, okay, and we have 2 videographers. I'm taking notes as we do this. And 3 online, or 2 online besides Dwayne. Okay. Audience of citizens, it is your turn to address the board. If anybody has anything at this time?
Yeah. Out at the transfer station this weekend, we had a lot of issues with people that didn't have their stickers up to date or anything. A lot of hassles, threats. If it continues, I'm going to request that we have a police officer out there because it's really getting hostile. I mean, the people had 3 months to get their sticker, so.
Would it help, Bob, if we, the staff up there gave out stickers again? I know you asked us not to take that away from you because it was,
Well, we didn't ask to have it taken away.
it was just busy for you, right?
Well, on Saturday and Sunday, we could do it because there's 2 people there. But otherwise, Wednesday and Friday, I don't think it's really that busy that, Jose can't do it.
Gotcha. And so is it both days you're finding that people are kind of hostile?
Saturdays and Sundays, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday was very hostile.
I'm sorry.
I had a call from a citizen on it who was so irate about the whole thing. He didn't want it on the windshield. And it happened 2 trips in a row. And I explained the background, how this was an issue brought by the people of the town at the meeting, and that we looked at this. There's a committee working on it, made a decision to do this. And I said, what's the problem? Just put the sticker on the dashboard. So I'm sorry that you're having this pushback, and I'm not sure, Carol, if it needs more public information or what. I know you're just taking feedback here from audience of citizens, but it was a resistance almost without basis.
I know, it really, it's a challenge to me, and it's a curiosity to me. It's like you pay taxes, so you get a free sticker.
As far as the placement of the stickers, if they put it on a side window that is clear, that's not tinted, we can see it a lot easier than if it's on a windshield.
Yeah. As long as it's on the driver's side, they were saying there can be some exceptions made.
Went back window or something. We can see it because they're orange this year. They stick out very well. But
Good to know.
it's just a matter of everybody's saying they can't get to the town hall. We try to explain to them, make a copy of your registration, mail it in a self-addressed envelope, and they can get their sticker that way.
Okay, well, we can talk more, because I did volunteer to go up there and hand out stickers myself one day, if that would be helpful. So maybe that is something.
Well, I think if maybe one of you selectmen come out on a Saturday, one comes out on a Sunday and see what's going on, maybe you can solve the problem.
Bob, I'd love to come out and see you.
Dwayne, it was one of your neighbors that said that you don't have one, and I said, yes, you do.
Yes, I do.
Dwayne, nice. Well, I agree. I agree that it's just unfortunate that we're getting such pushback when, again, you pay your taxes, it's a free sticker, you just put it on your car. I do not understand what the issue is in the pushback.
Well, a lot of the 81 that we threw out Saturday and Sunday did not have it, and when I checked today, between the 81 people that were not allowed to drop their trash, There was 3.5 ton difference in load on a compactor.
Well, I know Monday quite a few people came in to get stickers and they were pretty irate because they got turned away, so. Thank you for doing your jobs up there and checking the stickers.
We were threatened with, they were gonna call the troop, and I gave them the phone number and extension, so, and I told them to mention my name.
Okay, well, thank you both. Dwayne, did you have something else?
Yeah, no, I'm just curious, yes, the people should have our stickers, but I'm just curious if the people had last year's stickers, or they were complete out-of-towners. Do we know that? I guess my question is, did they have last year's sticker on their car?
They had the last year, but that's expired just like a car registration. If it's not registered, you're not allowed to drive it.
Right. I was curious to see if it was just they were too lazy to go get the sticker, or they were out-of-towners trying to come in. That was my question.
And some of the people that were irate decided to run over our cones on the way out. So,
Sorry about that.
I want the concrete Jersey barriers. Let them hit those.
All right. Thank you, Bob, for those comments. Anyone else? Okay, so now we have Steve has joined us, changing my audience of citizens to 4. Okay. All right, appointments and reappointments. So we have 2 on the agenda. The first is Matt Rosnitsky. I always want to say Rosnitsky, but to the Economic Development Committee, term to expire 12/1/2027.
I had a chance to talk with him. I think he'd be a fine addition. He's a successful businessman, has a sense of what it takes to run a business on Main Street, to create a lot of good ideas. I think he'd be a fine addition.
Okay.
I did not speak to him, but I would have no problem moving it forward. That's what Catherine just said. He's had a very successful business, and he would be an asset to the board or the commission.
All right, very good. So I just, so a motion to move them forward by Russell, and then second, Dwayne?
Yes.
Okay. And I will say Matt owns Deep River Roasters, for those that don't know. So, and I am in favor of that too. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Now our second, John Lambert, he had volunteered to be an alternate for Zoning Board of Appeals. On further investigation, we found out that unfortunately we can't place him on there or appoint him at this time because of the makeup of that committee. There has to be representation equally from all parties.
Right,
so,
but I need to note his name's Jonathan.
Jonathan.
You know, it's really interesting on this, Carol. On the committee, the main reason we thought of putting somebody was because they've been having trouble getting a quorum.
Yeah.
And I learned something on this. It's not only the committee that has to have numerical balance between the parties, it's also the alternates separately have to have balance. So the only solution to this is to either add another regular position or bring them on with 2 people at a time, if we like John, which I think he'd be great, with the second one being an unaffiliated or a Democrat. And I thought if we reached out to Jerome, we could figure out which direction he wanted to go.
Yeah. Well, right now, our regular members, it's full, so we'd have to move a regular member down to alternate and then switch them that way.
Right.
So there can be some talk still, but at this point, we cannot appoint someone new with his affiliation. So that's all. So
we
did want to say thank you to John for volunteering. So don't give up. We might be able to get John there. But yeah.
Would you like me to reach out to Jerome and talk about the situation? I do not have his contact information, the chair.
Sure, if you'd like to.
All right, I'll circle back and get it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but I think because, and we had mentioned Sybil has been the alternate longer, we did ask her when there was an opening if she wanted to move up, she had said no. But if we create an opening, she really should still get first right of refusal to move up if there's, you know.
So we have a couple paths, either create an opening or get somebody to step down, which I think is unlikely. But what was really interesting about this to me is that the core committee is actually under or lightly represented by one party. But you still couldn't put a new person from that party on because we have to balance the alternates. Yeah. So, interesting twist in equality there.
Yeah.
So I'll reach out to him and see if we can move anything. Thank you.
Dwayne, do you have any comments on that?
No, I'm good with that. You know, Jonathan's a good fellow. He's my neighbor.
Yeah.
But again, we've had this issue with some other committees where the politics, so to speak, have come into play to keep everything balanced. So.
Right. So, okay, so we'll kind of table John for now, and then we can circle back. If there's an opening, we know he has interest, so.
Great.
All right, number 5, so we have the Deep River Planning and Zoning Ad Hoc Committee for the Plan of Conservation and Development. And they've been working for, gosh, a couple years now working on this, which has to be updated every 10 years. And their next public input night, kind of a public hearing, is on March 5th upstairs. So it's a Wednesday, 6 p.m. And Zoe, our zoning enforcement officer, has printed out all these hard copies. Some of the feedback they got last time, it was only available online. People really wanted the hard copy. So she's made about 20 of these. They're in my office. So if people want to peruse the document in person or, by feel, they can come in and get one. Otherwise, it is available online. I see Tony here from P&Z. Do you have anything to add to the POCD?
No, I feel bad I showed up. You just nailed everything I was going to say.
Oh, geez. Well, we really want the public to come out because your comments is going to make this document that much better. It's the Plan of Conservation and Development, how we, it's a working draft, so they're still looking for input from the public. And they've done an amazing job. There's so much in this, so please give it a read. And if you can't make the meeting, any comments are appreciated. Email, stop in and see Zoe or talk to Tony. So they just want everyone's comments. So thank you for that. All right, well, Tony, I'm glad you're here. So now we have a discussion on changes to town ordinances. The sidewalk ordinance is really a modification, but the property ordinance, property maintenance, is like a blight ordinance. And I did print them out here. So anybody that's in the room that wants to look at them. But basically what we're going to do is review this. The Board of Selectmen's going to go back and forth, and I'm thinking maybe we set up a special meeting, Tony, with Planning and Zoning, which would be open to the public to come. And then we'll have the documents, once we think they're kind of ready to be reviewed by all, we will put them online, and again, have some hard copies so people can come in. And then these will have to get voted on at a town meeting. So right now, again, this is all proposed by Planning and Zoning, and you guys, this is pretty much a finished copy on your end.
Yes.
You're waiting for the input from Board of Selectmen
Okay.
and then the public.
Do you want us to send that to you
Yeah,
via
so-
email, or how would you
I
like
was going to
it?
say, again, if you send it to the zoning enforcement officer or myself, we'll make sure that the comments all get collected, and then we'll talk about them at the public hearing, see what we need to adjust.
Okay.
Do you want to give a quick synopsis for the camera of each of these? Just so people know kind of what we're talking about?
Yeah, so the property and blight ordinance is basically, I'm going to say, we've taken what a lot of the surrounding towns have done and kind of narrowed it down, because we didn't want to get, and I know this is going to come up, so I'm going to say this so everybody can hear it. We're not going to get into how tall people's grass is or the color of your house. This is strictly, we tried to keep it strictly for, I'm going to say junk collecting. And health and safety. So nothing to do with your grass or anything like that. So that's it basically for the blight ordinance. Sidewalk ordinance, just had to deal with snow. We don't have anything about that in our actual ordinance. It is part of the Connecticut General Statutes, so they recommend that you put it into your ordinances. Since we're touching ordinances, we figured we'd do that. Short-term rentals is, there are quite a few. We'll go with Airbnb at the moment. They are in town. A problem that a lot of other towns are seeing is that the health department doesn't have to review those the same way that because they don't know about them, they don't see them. The fire department has no input on them because they're not required to register them in town yet. So, fire department goes to a fire, they have no idea that there's a second unit in the building yet, things along those lines. So the requirement would be that you have to register it, be inspected by health, submit something to the fire department so they know you have an accessory dwelling unit. That's pretty much it.
Which would then make, you need like a secondary means of egress, you need all these safety things, so it'd be better for the public, and people coming in to rent in our lovely town.
Right.
We didn't want them in a fire trap or fire hazard thing or something, so thank you for working on that.
So we're going to have a special meeting to get into,
I
dig
think a
into it.
special
It's
meeting
complex.
so that when we all review it, we'll probably have questions, or, then we can have a special meeting with zoning.
Sounds good.
And then we'll put it on the website, public, and make some hard copies like we're doing, so. Thank you, Tony, for that. All right, Firehouse Building Committee update. So I wanted to say, Catherine, Dwayne, and I went to the first meeting of the committee, well, the first meeting of just the committee. There was a joint meeting before, but it was very productive. We thought all the members pretty much seemed to all jump right in and all left that first meeting with kind of action items to report back the next meeting. Right now, they're kind of looking into the first steps is getting all the maps and drawings from what they've had over the years. And then we're going to talk about maybe a feasibility study to see if that site is going to work for what we want it to. And then if part of that is also going to be looking at other properties, just so we can all, again, meet and have some more information.
It was a good meeting. I agree with you on that, Carol. I came away very pleased to see the depth of technical knowledge of the members on this committee, and I felt very gratified that we had that talent right here in town.
Yeah.
So
I concur with that. It was, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of work, but they're off to a very good start.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Would you say? Okay, good.
Yeah. Car washes. So I wanted to give an update on this status because we've had quite a few residents call, not residents, but they are residents, but they're also parts of sports teams at Valley, booster clubs, that sort of thing. And I just wanted to say we stopped doing car washes last July 1st. And there were a lot of factors. It wasn't just environmental. There was a concern with all the soap going down the drains. There was a concern with the volume of water. Water had gone up 14% last year. Our bills, that was the proposal. It's proposed to go up another 4 to 7% this year. So there was a big cost. We seemed to get all the kids from Valley, and it was a wonderful it was a wonderful fundraiser. Kids were having a lot of fun, clean fun, and it was, they all made money. But there were a lot of behavioral issues that we had. There were a lot of complaints from our residents, and there were a lot of complaints for the way the students were jumping in the road, waving signs, dressing inappropriately, being very loud, and scaring drivers. And some drivers got scared because the kids were just very busy waving the signs and distracting them, and they got nervous they were going to hit somebody or something like that. So we decided that because of the inconvenience and all these other issues, we just put a stop to it. So I am holding that stance, and I know it's not popular, but we can definitely readdress it. I wanted to at least give a year, a baseline, so we can see what we did spend and what we didn't, and now we can compare with having no car washes. But it was really hard to do month-to-month expenditure comparisons, which is what we did look at August, and of course we saved a lot of money because we didn't have any in August. So again, I know it's not a popular thing and it is a great fundraiser, but we reached out to the athletic director up at Valley twice and asked them to have the kids wear some Valley clothing so people knew they were from a school, and we asked them to have better behavior, not get in the road, wear appropriate clothing. Some were not dressed, didn't have enough clothing on, and that was a problem. So again, we tried, and it just didn't seem to work, so we kind of just put a stop to it. So I just wanted to go on the public record to say it was a majority of things, and I know somebody was blaming our sustainable committee, and that is not it at all. There was a lot of factors, so I don't know how the police felt about it, but I mean, when there was a car wash, did you notice more people jumping around?
Notice excitement, but nothing hazardous.
So we can circle back to that, but right now we'll stick to no car washes. So just looking to see if anybody had any comments online, but I do not see any. Okay, audience of citizens. So we're back to our second number 9 here. Anyone want to address the board?
I just have one question for Tony. The sidewalk ordinance is what does that mean? Just keeping them clear during the snow?
Yeah, just keep it clear under snow, and actually, I missed that, they're actually brush also, so a lot of the overgrowth, you're required to cut it back. So, we did have an issue, by Dennis Field where the town crew had kept going after the person, and eventually they went out and cleared it, so.
Maybe you could look into it. It'd be good for us if somebody has a fire hydrant in their front yard too. Could that be part of that to keep that clear for us?
Absolutely.
Be less that we have to go out and shovel and clear out.
Yep, well, we didn't even do that, great.
Just a thought.
Yeah. And I know people were complaining, Union, people had a lot of those beautiful lilies, but they just got really big and full and they blocked the sidewalk. So a couple of people with small children had to go like into the road a little bit because the sidewalk was, kind of too obscured for their carriage and that sort of thing. So that's a great ordinance. Thank you, Tony. All right, selectmen update. Just wanted to touch on a few things. Kind of not in order of priority, but the first one I wrote down was our police issue. Probably everyone has heard about it. We do have 2 police officers here if you wanted to address it, or I will continue. Okay. Just wanted to go on record that we did have, over the weekend, there was an issue with one of our part-time police officers, our constables. But right now there's an ongoing investigation, so I don't really want to speak to it too much. I will say that, he's served the town for many years, and we were happy for his service. He is now, hasn't been full-time with the town for many months. Last paycheck was in October, and he was really someone that we could count on for our special events, like the Memorial Day Parade, muster, that sort of thing. So at this point, that's really all I have to say about that, but I did just wanted to go on record because I've had quite a few calls and...
Did you have any sense of timing on when the investigation will be completed?
I do not. I'm not that familiar with how long these things take, but I was told that we'd be notified of the findings of their investigation, and then if the town needs to act any further, we would base our actions on then what the report is or what the recommendation from the investigation is. So. Okay. So sale of property. I just didn't want people to think we forgot about it. I've been looking into the different requirements, talking to our finance person who talked to the auditors, and there might be something that we need from planning and zoning, that they have to write a letter in support of us selling this property.
Okay. From the planning part of it?
Yeah, I guess just so that it's looked like something that the state requires so that towns aren't selling property out from each other if they're like towns don't get along with each department or something. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it's something like planning and zoning has to write a letter in support of the sale or something. So I'll find that state statute. I was talking to Anne Marie about it, so I'm not 100% sure that if we need to dot that I, but
I'm making notes
okay.
too, so.
Dwayne, did you have something?
No.
Oh, okay. It kind of made a little beep, that's all.
Cough.
Oh, geez, sorry. All right, and then the third was Oak Ridge Drive. So we're pleased to report the project is finally completed. The town and the homeowner have reached an agreement regarding the final cost incurred, and the homeowner came in yesterday and issued a check for her portion, which was a little lower than what was originally agreed, but there were other costs incurred, and the Board of Selectmen, the building department, our finance, and I talked to the town attorney today, and everyone is very pleased with the final resolution of that, and we will both be signing a kind of a waiver or a completion closure letter, or one of for lack of better term of that. But so again, we're really pleased that it finally came to a conclusion, and the homeowner is happy with the work. So. And that's what I had for notes. So did you have other notes?
I have a couple questions. I'm wondering if you could share any more information from some of the items you've mentioned in your newsletter about meetings that have happened.
Okay.
School regionalization, met with the first selectman of Chester a couple times. Any forward momentum there?
Well, now we're going to reach out to the superintendent to see if we can get some real data. So right now, we've had a gentleman compiling data, so it's a very data-driven conversation we've had thus far. And it looks like the best solution, which is not a solution at this point, it's just an idea, but would be combining Chester and Deep River School, elementary school. Maybe moving a couple grades up to John Winthrop instead of just 6th grade. But again, it's all just talk and like scenarios. What if we do this, we do this, we do this? But you know, we are one of the only schools around that has a middle school of 7th and 8th grade. Most schools are at least 3 grades. In fact, I think of the 11 that he looked at, only 2 have that configuration of 7th and 8th. So that really needs to be addressed because our school up there is so large, John Winthrop, for this small amount of children, you know. So I think at this point, our next step is to reach out to the superintendent to get some numbers. If we do this, what does that look like number-wise per student cost, and you know, that sort of thing.
Any sense of when you'll be engaging the additional selectmen and discussing the work and next steps?
I think probably when we get more information from the central office with some numbers.
So probably in about a month.
Yeah, I would hope. I mean, they're kind of done with their budget, so they might be ready to do that for us.
Thanks, Carol. I was wondering about the meetings about having electric charging stations at a couple of the facilities. Are these for electric vehicles, or are these for cell phones, or what are we thinking?
Oh, electric vehicles.
For electric vehicles?
So right now there's another rebate program out, and for new addresses, they're basically free of charge for the municipality. So
how would that be structured on, are we thinking on
good. We're
the
still going.
citizen?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You can join us.
So you guys are
Would the citizen be paying, or would the town be bearing the electric cost? Any information on that?
Go ahead, Dwayne, but it's usually pay the charge.
Pay by the citizen, I believe.
Yeah,
Great.
you pay right at the,
Super.
yeah.
All right.
In fact, we have 2 at the library now that people are paying,
Yes.
but I don't know where that money goes. That is something I've been
That's a
trying
good
to
one.
investigate.
And
Anne Marie doesn't seem to know either. Like, who gets that money when you charge your car?
And I'm wondering, is there any update on the town buildings or the basement? You referenced the meeting on that. Next steps are about getting someone to assess the buildings. Or
Right, I have the RFP. I actually sent it over to, I think, Tony and Alan to look at that RFP. Did you guys ever look at that?
I actually haven't, but now that you said that, I'm gonna
Oh,
put it on
okay.
my to-do list.
It's very general, but we
Yeah.
just wanted, because you guys have more of the building background, and we were just talking about that, so.
It's funny, I saw it opened it, and that's as far as
Okay.
I apologize.
Yep,
I think that's it.
all right. All right, well, we will adjourn. I can't think of anything else either.
One more thing. Next steps on the schooling, Mitchell. Is there anybody at,
Oh, CCM, I
CCM.
did reach out to CCM, and they were going to get back to me on that. That was as of maybe Friday or maybe Monday.
okay.
So he was gonna look into it. I sent him all the information. Okay. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So
It's
moved.
7:01.
Second.
All right.
This is the February 25th, 2025 regular meeting of the Deep River Board of Finance. First item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of our meeting of January 28th, 2025. Would anyone like to make a motion? It's my understanding that Carmela wishes to
Amend
amend.
Like to
okay.
amend the first and second discussion.
Well, that's what we need to
Make a motion.
approve, a second, and then we can discuss, and you will discuss when you get there. Can I have a motion to discuss?
No, did you want a motion to approve? You need to approve.
Well,
No, you can't.
how can I,
Yeah,
how
but first
can
and
I make,
second, then
oh, I
discussion.
see. We're going to approve, then discuss,
No.
and take a vote.
First and second, then discussion, and then the vote.
Okay. Can I please have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to amend the minutes. And I'd like to amend the minutes to read that at last month's meeting, I had brought up an issue of state bonding and recommended that we, as a town, go to our state senator and seek state bonding for the fire department. And I just want that to be on record, that that was one of the ways of acquiring money to lessen the burden on the taxpayer.
Excellent.
Can you just repeat that so I have it?
Repeat it?
Yes, please, thank you.
I had recommended that we seek state bonding, go through Senator Needleman, to finance the fire department's firehouse. And if we were to get the state bonding, it would lessen the cost to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Excellent.
I am not a member of the Board of Finance, but I did want to make an amendment if I could. Under the Selectmen area, item 2, discussing Schooling Mitchell. The structure is in the third sentence that they receive half of the savings for 3 years. It says 2, it's for 3 years.
I think you need to hire a new secretary. Could we do that, please?
And
We need one too.
to that point, is there any, we're off subject, has anybody expressed an interest? Have we advertised in any way? You were in need of one also. No?
I haven't really advertised it as much as I did last time, so I'll get on that.
Thank you.
It's a difficult, and we're way off subject, it is a difficult task to fill. They do not make much money, and it's a rather difficult task. So, okay, excellent.
We need the approval, vote to.
With those two addendums or changes, we need to vote to approve the minutes.
As amended.
We will make the amendments in this set of minutes. So, yes, as amended. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Excellent. All right, the next item on our agenda, audience of citizens. Any citizens? Tim, you're the only citizen, although you dual obligations. Citizen, as a citizen, you were good. Excellent, thank you. Treasurer's report. Anne Marie, Tom is not here. Do you wish to add anything? I have the treasurer's report. It was sent to us. We received second installment of property taxes in December, so there seems to be, how shall I describe, ample funds, adequate funds in the town funds. I know nothing more to add. Does anyone else wish to add any flavor? Yeah, with that, let us move on. And I just lost my agenda.
I'm gonna try to get Dwayne, I'm sorry. He was calling me, but it didn't work.
Hello?
All right, so you're on now, Dwayne.
Okay.
Okay. So carry on.
I believe the next item on our agenda is Selectmen's report. Carl?
All right, I was making a couple notes earlier. Sorry. Let's see where they are. I did help wanted for secretary. Just get that right. And we wanted to just report the project at Oak Ridge Drive was closed out. We did receive a check from the owner yesterday for maybe about $7,500. I forget. Emery?
$7,900.
Oh, so about $8,000. Yeah.
$7,900.
That project was closed out, and then Jackie and I were talking about the cost for the ceiling in the auditorium. Way back before the whole mold in the basement issue, I had gotten one cost for $30,000 to fix the plaster ceiling in the stage area that's fallen. And I will proceed to get a couple others if I can. I might only get one other because it is a specialized thing. The company that had come in does a lot of churches and large domed buildings, ceilings, that kind of thing. So I will have something to present at the next meeting, I hope, but that would be nice if we could move forward. That's been down for a while. We put all the issues, kind of the eyes in the basement and all that effort, and now we should do that because we're turning away some groups that want to use the stage, like summer recitals and spring things and that sort of thing. it'd be good to have it come up. And then Firehouse, I did speak to the state elected officials. I spoke to Norm, I spoke to Renee, and I am going to send Renee something in writing. The thought was that we'll never get all of the bonding for the entire firehouse, but we'd have to do kind of a private bonding ourselves, which, you know, Emery and I have spoke about what Norm's comments were. But maybe there is something like, as Carmela said, a few dollars could come our way to kind of offset what we do have to go out and borrow. So, so that's still in the works. And then we talked a lot about just our bond rating. You know, Deep River does not have a bond rating, so we'd have to go through that procedure to get ourselves.
That's correct. That's one of the things the consultant is going to help us with, or at least identify.
Right. And I did sign that UC stat thing, so we can send that out for consultants. And then we did sign that we're going to do the tag on for the fire department for that vehicle. And are you guys familiar with the whole tag on?
No.
Well, remember, were you at Carmela when the consultant came? Jim Lyons, and he presented? Yeah, so that was what, versus an RFP, the tag on was, if you've purchased something in the last 3 years and it's going to be the same spec, and then it's a little faster to go about getting, remember that? Yeah. So we did sign that document, so we're going to move forward with that purchase, just for the fire engine. And I believe one of the firemen, I think it was Fire Commissioner Dave Barotas, had told me that there was some early date in March where it was going up already $1,000 or something, so it was quick that we wanted to lock it in. So that was done. And I guess I have nothing else.
What is the status of the other fire truck, the brush truck?
The committee is doing a presentation to the fire commission this coming Monday, and then depending on the outcome of that, which I think we hope will be favorable, we'll be asked to put on the agenda for the selectmen's meeting, first selectmen's meeting in March, whatever that date is. So
Okay.
should have something for that first selectmen's.
So as soon as we have enough details, I will proceed to talk to the potential lenders or leaseors. Hopefully we can combine the two, but we'll find out once we get more technical type stuff. Okay.
And I did.
Just for, you have signed a contract to buy the new truck, which is in your authority.
We have.
Is that what you had said you just did?
The engine.
The
The
engine.
engine.
The engine. Fire engine.
And
You
then,
will pay for that how? You're signing, you must have confidence you can pay for it, right?
well, I got approval by the town to move forward with buying an engine. So
Oh,
we'll have to
excellent.
figure that
But
out.
how are you going to pay for it? Do you have to decide? I don't think we decided how we're going to pay for it yet. How can you sign it? You're binding the town to pay for something you do not have the dollars to pay for.
What process would you have preferred, Bud?
Okay.
What process would you have preferred?
I don't know. Carol's signing, committing the town to pay for this truck, which means, I don't know what it means. I have no doubt that we're going to proceed. I have called off until I know with more certainty where the firehouse will be. I've called off the consultant that we would do a public bond, but I just don't know how you're gonna pay for it. I'm sure we can figure out a way. I just don't, when you sign that, how are you gonna pay for it? But I'll let you decide.
Well, the recommendation, given the manufacturing timeline on that engine, was that we not enter into any sort of financing agreement for at least, I think, 4 months was the magic number.
Have we agreed to that? Town agreed to that? Who agreed to that? I agree with it. There's no doubt in my mind it'll be done. Who agreed to that? You and me. It's a start. Okay, just curious.
Well, I mean, at some point, you have to trust the process. You know, the town approved buying the vehicle. They gave me authorization, therefore, to sign, enter into the agreement. And our professionals, the consultants that came in, said, this is what you should do. You're going to save $100,000 if you enter into the agreement now versus, you know. So we all sat through that presentation, and I think I think it was the right thing to do, even though
I do too.
we don't have answers to
I'm
every one
just
of your
curious, the
questions.
consultants didn't say, here's your money.
No?
I'm just curious, when you sign, how do you intend to pay for it, other than conversations we've had?
But what would you have preferred, that Carol wait until this meeting, then put it to a vote, and then you come up with it?
Until we identify how we're going to pay for it, I don't see how you're going to pay for it. If we do not get financing, how are you going to pay for a $1 million truck?
I would like clear direction from you on what process you'd like us to follow so that we are not finding ourselves in these awkward conversations.
If we agree with the truck, and we'll have the other one, we will go to the leasers and ask them to bid on it. We would have a commitment from the leasers that they would finance the truck. You would have comfort that somebody's going to finance the truck. Now, as Anne Marie said, we have to decide amongst ourselves. There will be a window that they will allow us to operate in before we have to start paying, but it seems to me these are the kind of details that we should be talking about.
Okay, so we are now, help me understand what you need us to do.
If we have the details for the truck, and we have the details for the truck, we will send those details to, I hope, send it to 3 financing companies and have them bid. We'll pick the lowest bid or the which one we want, and then we would have an agreement. Here is how we're going to pay for the truck.
Do you need a
With
motion?
that in mind, Carol can then say, I have knowledge that this is how we're going to pay for this truck. The citizens aren't going to pay for it. It's $1 million, $1 million plus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, that's,
Do you need a motion from your group on going to bid to 3 leasing companies, or are you fine?
I don't have anything yet. I only have the trucks yet. Once I get the names of trucks, we'll identify who we're going to get to finance it and proceed from there. Would be my thought.
Well, I had a good feeling when we sat down with all those different banks and,
Well, the banks were going to help us with funding for the firehouse. This is not what the banks talked about.
no, I know, but I mean, I don't have such a doomed outlook as you do at this
I don't
point.
have a doom deal. I'm very comfortable we're going to pay for it. I just, at the moment, don't know how we're going to pay for it, who we're going to pay for it with. And I just am curious that you are willing to sign a contract and get the town to pay for something we don't.
Well, I was
know.
holding off because I thought we needed to have everything lined up, and then I was given the advice that since the town approved it, then we were going to, the Board of Finance was going to help figure out how to pay for it. That is the mission of your group. And our group is to say, this makes the most economic sense for the town to save that $100,000, save that money in the long term. It was
I have no
agreed
doubt
on
about that.
purchase.
I have no doubt about that. I agree
Okay,
with that.
so now we're charging you with, let's figure out how we're gonna pay for it.
Okay. Okay.
What happens if the bids come in higher than what was approved? Is that possible? Do we have to go back to a town meeting or something?
Well, the town approved financing. There was no limit on the dollar. There's a limit of how much we can borrow, but not on the terms.
No, but that's what I'm talking about, is that we approved a certain amount of money.
And I think the 2 trucks are coming in about, are you comfortable they're coming in about what the town approved?
So did that approval not include interest in all of that, or?
No, just financing.
Principal amount?
And that brings up another question. I assume we will have to go back to the town to get approval for the actual details, but I don't know yet. I don't know. We'll deal with that when the time we've done that in the past, but don't. All right. All right, keep on going, Ms. Carroll, you're doing fine. So you're saying, what are you saying about, what's the status of the fire department? Firehouse.
Oh, firehouse. I thought we just talked about that.
It's delayed?
No, that was at the Board of
Oh, it's what?
Selectmen meeting.
So basically, no, so they had their first firehouse building committee, and as Catherine and I had said, and Dwayne concurred at our selectmen meeting, it was a really productive meeting. We were very pleased with the makeup of the group and the participation and the contributions. and the background of the people at the committee meeting. But I think one of their, everybody took away action items. One of the things is to look into the feasibility of using that site, and then also the feasibility of maybe using other sites. So kind of a combined look and see if that is the best area, look and see if that footprint will fit there and all this kind of thing. So just sort of to make sure we're building where we want to build. That's kind of what the takeaway was. And that was our first meeting, and then we'll have another meeting coming up.
So all the information presented to the town is no longer valid.
No, that is not true. Do not make that statement.
You just said we're going to look at different sites.
Well, again, feasibility. So we just want to make sure before we put shovel in the ground that that is where it should be. We've got to do a soil study. We've got to do more work there, that's all. We don't want to get in the middle of some project and then it's not the perfect place, so.
Plus, there's another piece to it with new state requirements
Right.
on displacement of water potentially happening as a result of raising up one end of the property. So that can be addressed by, and I'm forgetting the words for it, it's containerization of the water, there's a technical term for it. The team that's on the committee is going to be looking at a range of areas upstream where they could do that, and they would need to figure out what are these areas, which ones maybe the owners be amenable to doing easements, et cetera. So what will be the cost of the containerization? So that's new information that came as a result of a fresh understanding, which we as an original group did not have, that this was a regulation that had to be met. So
Regulation as of 2023 DEP because of all the flooding in the state. So again, as Catherine said, it was a new thing to this group because that was just a 2023 finding.
Could you explain that in different?
Yes. So here's what
So
happens.
we're building. So there's a floodplain there.
Okay.
So the idea was to bring in fill, dirt, proper, raise up the floodplain in whatever area you needed for the elevation. But that would displace the water, and you can't displace downstream because that's where you're going to flood eventually, maybe, right? If you do
Downstream
something
is
here.
towards the Connecticut River,
Downstream is like towards
my house.
towards your house.
towards the
Okay.
vacant parking lot kind of.
Okay, towards your
Okay.
house. I didn't know which way was downstream.
So
Okay.
basically what the state now is requiring is that if you're going to displace water, you have to displace it upstream. You have to make a place upstream that can hold the water that you're going to maybe displace here so that you don't flood people downstream.
Wow.
Compensatory storage.
There it is, compensatory storage. Thank you.
So this was a new thing that just came to light, and so we have to do our due diligence now to make sure it will work over there. And that's all.
But I think to reinforce what Carol's saying, at the team, when we were there at the meeting, we came away very impressed with the depth of technical knowledge and capability of the people who are on this committee, and immediately picked up and are able to move forward to get the information they need in these various areas. So that's a very positive,
Yeah,
what we saw.
I agree.
Is there a delay in the potential financing of the project? I've called off the finance consultant. If you're telling me that you do not anticipate a delay in the project, we should start that process back.
Well, when we
What issue
met
of
with the USDA, I've brought up every meeting that we're in a floodplain, and it doesn't scare anyone away. They say, well, you bring in fill to, do this, do this, do this. So I think right now, we just have to see if this site is still something that we can do this, do this, do this, and have it work. And if it's not, then this is when we have to find that out, like before we start,
So we don't know yet if there's a delay in the timing. There are a few more meetings, more information to be able to say that definitively.
Who decides if it's able to do that, to move the water upstream rather than downstream? Doesn't that impact all the houses that go before it? Am I in the right direction, going up towards the church? Is that upstream?
Yes, but if you're upstream and you create an area that will hold extra water, so maybe you're widening the banks. There's different ways to do it. So if you widen the banks, it causes you have more volume coming through up there. And then if you change the topography where the firehouse is by elevating the elevation, by bringing more fill, then downstream, you're not gonna have any impact because you've taken care of the volume of water.
And none of this came out when Angus was doing studies for the firehouse there the past couple of
The
years?
floodplain was always an issue, but it was always something that could be addressed by bringing in the fill to change the elevation. Again, this was something that I was told the DEP just in 2023 has done this compensatory storage of the water. Again, and probably as a result of Naugatuck, all those towns getting so flooded and dams collapsing and all those things, so.
So it's unfortunate we didn't know, but now we do, and they're addressing it, and we will have more information as it
The hope is to
revealed.
stay on that site, but, you know, we want to make sure we've done our due diligence and, you know, not been kind of,
So who's going
Pennywise
to
pound
decide
foolish.
whether or not it's a feasible spot? Is there a committee that's doing that, or there
The firehouse
engineers
building
doing
committee.
that, or?
are going to, you know, might be an RFP for a engineering company that does the feasibility study. But again, the firehouse building committee is going to,
So where does that put the firehouse on a timeline in terms of starting construction or deconstruction?
We don't know yet,
Yeah.
basically. We
A
need
year
some more,
out,
we
months out,
don't know
don't
that,
know?
Carmella.
well, I think we're already I mean, we still have to do the RFP for the architect and, you know, you're still out from shovel in the ground, you know. That wasn't gonna happen tomorrow anyway, you know. So maybe this adds a month of time, 6 weeks. The feasibility study shouldn't take that long, but they have to still RFP for someone to do it if that's what is gonna be necessary.
Carol, it's only been the one meeting too, so I mean, just that first meeting, we were able to meet each other and understand what everybody had to bring to the table, so this is a lot of information to get started with.
Right. And they all learned about it the same night. It was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Tim, the old station is fine until this process goes? No need?
Depends on the length of the process, our roof is leaking again, I gotta call a roofer again. Just depends on the length of the process.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate information, but it's better
Both you
better
and
to
Anne
know.
Marie shared with me, there's adequate funds that we've set aside over the years. So if there is additional, what do you want to call it, engineering studies, there is funds available, right? This board would probably not have to appropriate any additional funding.
We might have
Well,
to.
that's a bold statement on my part, isn't it?
Yes. We might have to go back and look at some meeting minutes as far as exactly what those monies were approved for. The title in our official financial report is Firehouse Architect, and this may stray.
Actually, in retrospect, that is what it was put.
May stray from that specific, but I don't know if perhaps it was simplified for the financial report, so I will have to do some digging on that.
So is there like a line item budget for this firehouse from its inception to its putting a shovel in the ground and then building it and
For
finishing
this
it?
building project, no. This is money that's been put aside over the years for these studies, these architecture, and in some cases, we've thrown engineering in there. So this is all more preliminary to actually starting an official project.
Okay.
That was my action item for the meeting, so I did my homework.
Is that your question? Actually, what was presented to the town at hearings was a study done by, correct me if the word is study, what is it with the engineering report done by,
SLR?
yes, that's what it was, or the guys out of Branford? It was like a 7-page document that.
Oh, that was Munger Construction.
Okay, so there was a fairly detailed, I thought it was very impressive, estimate of what the costs were going to be. Is that your question?
Yes.
There was an
Yeah.
attempt to estimate what had to be done to accomplish what we took to the town.
So with this new ruling that we've just found out about from DEP, that's going to add extra costs. If they're
Due
going to have to
diligence.
create, just a pond or something, or rebuild the walls of the stream or whatever, that's going to be extra money to do all that, right? And that's going to delay going forward from there. Just trying to get it in my head, a timeline report.
It might, but you know, you kind of wonder if that's something that can be concurrently done with something else on site. Like if they're upstream working on something, maybe there can be other demolition site prep going on the property, if, you know. So it might not be, you know, a one-to-one delay, it might be a little overlap or something, or.
So to push this one step more, once the firehouse has begun demolition, where do you guys go?
Well, I think the plan was to build the section off towards, let's see, that's north, so south, you know, south of the firehouse now. And then once that that's done, I think the whole firehouse was supposed to fit in there, about like 13 feet off the one that's existing. Then the existing one would be torn down, and that would become parking. So the new firehouse was supposed to fit into that big area, and then they're going to take the house down there too.
So to the other side?
Yeah, to the south of what's there now.
That had been the plan, but as was discussed at the fire station meeting, a couple of the people who are very professionally skilled in this said they don't believe that can happen, and they're going to need additional staging.
Yeah,
and I don't think
staging.
they came to a definite decision, but what we had been discussing before this actual skilled committee got together was, as Carol said, keeping the current one going, building here, but two of the professionals on the committee said, you can't do that. You just can't do that. So they're going to come back with a plan. It's just not developed yet. You're asking excellent questions, Carmela. They're just, they had the one working session, and they all have it in their head, and everyone left there with homework. They're going to come back the next meeting, 2-3 meetings, and hammer all this out. So I guess to say,
And those meetings are open, you know, open to the public, so if you're available, maybe that would be helpful. Yeah.
We'll look to do that.
How often is it meeting?
every
Twice
2
a
weeks.
Can I just say one thing? Just with what Catherine was just saying, I don't believe they said it could not be done, Catherine, but it would be, it's a difficult site, it's a tight site. So as you know, a site work person is digging, there's not a staging area there for the material that they're digging out for footings and walls. So it adds extra work to it because you probably would be hauling that material off-site to store it, to bring it back. So I don't think it was ever said that night, unless I missed it, that it can't be done. It can be done. It's just going to be some inconveniences to us, and it's a tight lot to do it. That's how I took it.
I guess I heard it just a little differently, but it's all will come out in the next
It's
several
cool.
meetings
Well,
as they work.
it's not gonna be easy because it's a tight site and we need a home to stay in, so,
It's not a slam dunk.
yeah, exactly.
So, but it's agreed. It's a great group of technical people working
Without
on
a
these
doubt.
issues.
Just to be a doomsdayer, what if this site doesn't work out? Then what?
Well,
Well, then part of, I guess, one of the action items or homework for one or two of the other committee members was look at other properties, just to see if there are other sites around, so. But-
In the same area, you mean?
just looking over the whole town and then studying the report that the fire department has developed, so you know where the concentration of calls are, where they're coming from, where the volunteers live, so you can get a sense what would be the best position to serve the town. And hopefully they'll come up with, I don't know, 8 or 10 options, and the team will price them all out, and then they'll be able to say what is the best for the town.
Wow,
So they have quite a large undertaking.
I guess. Thank you.
The next meeting is Thursday, the 6th, at 6 o'clock
And where do they have that?
at the fire station.
Okay. Unless anyone disagrees, I'm going to continue to hold financing consultants in abeyance until we have better time and dollar amounts.
I agree with Bud only because I think there's such a risk of interest rates shifting. It would be terrible to get all these recommendations from these groups and then not be able to move forward with that information.
How long will it take a consultant to come up with a study and response for us? Is it a 2-week project or?
Month. at most. I mean, we've got, the big one, we've got USDA, and you can put in your own decision on where they will be. I assume we will move forward with a public bond. And that market is fairly active, but we would have to get a rating and a few things like that. We should be able to move rather quickly on that. But.
Well, I strongly suggest that we go try to get bond money from the state. It won't be decided on until this legislative session is up, but if we can get even a small amount of bond money, several $100,000 is a reduction to the citizens in this town and what they have to pay. And there's also grants you can get from the federal government under FEMA. And I have information on it if you're interested in that. I don't know, Trump would probably not give Connecticut anything because we didn't vote for him, but it's consideration. We can try.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely, thank you.
There was, I don't remember whose takeaway it was on the committee to look at grants, but that was a takeaway, so it would be great to share this information.
Yep, it's right here.
Okay.
Great, I can make a copy.
There's one called Firefighters Fire Station Construction Grant. That's under FEMA. There's another one, Fire Station Construction Grants Act, and it had a number S4690. I don't know what that was. I didn't look at it any further. And then there's a website you can go to, apxdata.com/grants, and it's about it's a whole PDF file about
I think I
apply for grants and
I'll
all
just
that
take a
sort of
picture of
thing.
that. You can do it soon. You can send it to Catherine to do it.
You can have it.
Joanne, you got anything?
Thank you.
Your movement, I didn't know.
Is there any reason why Norm doesn't think that we're eligible for bonds? I got the sense that you said that he didn't think that we could
Well,
get.
right now, the thought is the governor is supporting affordable housing, preschool or pre-K, and what was the third thing? He didn't-
Special education, I
He
just got
didn't want to
approved.
see firehouses this year, is what I was told. He did those, he already did those or something, so. So we might get something, but we won't get the whole thing.
But if you don't ask, you don't find out. So if you ask and they say no, you know it's no. But if you ask and you get something, it's better than nothing.
But Carol has asked now. You have asked.
Norm's put in a request for bonding.
I talked to Norm about it quite a lot, yeah. And then I'm sending something to Renee, to talk to her too, and then we went back and forth, and I got somebody else from the state to email me and said, send me some more information, so we might get something out of it. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I have it listed over. Marie, you'll talk about the public hearing. You're having a public hearing soon. We're moving $38,000 out of surplus into your building fund. Is that correct? And
That is
soon
correct.
is-
Well, Tina and I are going to work on the agenda for that town meeting and then get it going, because we wanted to put a few of ordinances that we've been working on as well.
Good.
But we need to let the public have time to look at those before we put them to a vote. I don't want to get them voted down just because people aren't comfortable with what we're changing. You know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. Okay.
So I would say maybe 3 weeks from now, maybe a
Okay.
month from now, if we can
Excellent.
push it out. Yeah.
And one of the items is the 38 that we spent downstairs
Yes.
back into your buildings.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need, remind me, how did we fund Oak Ridge? All out of town crew funds? Do we have to restore that at all?
No, we put money towards that.
We've had a town meeting already to move money for that, and we're fine? We did okay with what we put aside?
Yes, I think we can handle it the way it sits.
Okay, excellent. Good.
Then in the town meeting would also be the procurement policy that Emery came up with, so if y'all can come out and vote for that, that'd be great.
So what was the total cost for Oak Ridge?
About $149,000.
Here's what Dick gave us.
$149,715.99.
We got a town meeting to approve that, or that's what the cost was?
That is what the cost was. The town approved $100,000 of capital money.
Okay.
About, pretty much, the $49,000 there was the rental of the pumps,
Yes.
which really doesn't fall under that capital realm.
And the pumps we've been covering out of contingency, and we will look at that when we get to the budget. Okay. Good. And I heard you talking about select person. You were hiring a consultant to look at cost, particularly telephone. That is still in process?
Well, that, if you remember, because you were in the meeting, Bud, when we looked at that, and they work on a contingency basis, and if they find savings, they split the cost. They'll work on the contracts, they'll negotiate them for us, then they'll split the cost with us for 3 years, and all the savings is ours in perpetuity. We took a look at that, and I went and tried to find some companies to see if there were other people that did a similar offered a similar service. We didn't find any direct ones. There was one that worked on a contingency basis, but they only worked for medical practices, so it really wouldn't help us in the town. And the others all were more traditional consulting firms, even if they were small or specialty, where they come in and they make a bid. We'd have to invest significant monies first before we saw anything. So where it is now, Carol's reached out to CM to see if they know, perhaps in their vast knowledge, of any other similar resource. In absence of finding that, we're probably going to move forward.
Yeah, then we'd go forward with them. We just wanted to do our due diligence in case there were other companies out there.
Okay. All right. Carol, do you have more you wish to add? You've done fine.
I have nothing else to add at this point.
All right. Excellent. Anyone have any questions? All right. with
I
that-
have a quick
Oh,
question. Did
yes,
we,
sir.
didn't we move to purchase those pumps? I know this is off a little bit.
Did
Did we purchase them?
We did.
We did,
With the
okay.
ARPA money.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thought so.
We did purchase them, but we did pay for them for several, before we purchased them, we were also leasing them, which is
Okay.
still in the contingency.
Yeah, we leased them for so many months that then it behooved us to sort of just buy them outright, because it was almost like lease to own or something. Like at that point, we leased them for so much.
That we owned them.
That they
Is
said,
there-
let's just buy one.
I don't know. Is there pending litigation with that property as well? Or they-
There is not, no. We
Okay.
all reached an agreement. There's no litigation.
Okay.
We were concerned that it might go that way, but we
Yeah.
all the parties sat down and everyone was in agreement, so. yeah.
Okay.
We're
Thank
very
you.
pleased.
Oh, good. All right, next item on our agenda would be Trooper Cross. Sure.
Evening. So I spoke with Wayland, who reached out to us, and they are updating their fleet of demonstration vehicles. They're actually going to donate to us a 2020 Ford Explorer Hybrid. So currently, the youngest car we have one car that's less than 5 years old. We have one car that's a 2014. We have a car that's 2016 and a car that's 2019. It's newer than most of our fleet. So with that, we do need to outfit this vehicle. It comes with lights only. So I did provide Bud a copy of 2 different quotes that are for different equipment that's going to be installed in the vehicle. Our 2013 Taurus that we had, the equipment was stripped out of that for the cameras, more the in-car cameras as well as the body camera mount and all that. So we do have that, and we're reusing it, repurposing a few of the items that were in that vehicle. But I'm requesting use of up to $20,000 from our special police fund for outfitting this vehicle. That would include all the electronics that need to be installed in the vehicle, as well as some of the security features in the rear of the vehicle. And then, so that equals somewhere around $17,000. And then there's going to be another ancillary cost of we need to mark it, so it's a couple $100 more dollars for that. And I'm hoping there's not going to be much more, but if there is, it's going to be very minimal in expenditure. Those are the big budget ones. So.
Anyone have a, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
How many miles are on this one? It's 5 years old already.
50,000, I believe.
Yeah, and any pending, will they give it to us with a clean bill of health?
Yeah, they're going to take it to get a service before they provide it to us.
Okay, all right.
Are you planning on retiring one of the other vehicles, the older vehicles, with the addition of this vehicle?
So we're going to keep one as a spare, because currently we don't have a spare that works. So in case one of our vehicles does go down due to maintenance issues, we would have something that we can continue to work.
Board of Finance thoughts, 17 is the number. We're asking for up to 20 for the flexibility to, what's the term you use, outfit the new vehicle. We would take it out of the special police fund, which has, we talked last month, $58,041 or something like that. So there's ample funds. This is what we anticipated. Anyone, thoughts, concerns?
Does that include lettering and?
No, so the $17,000, those two quotes there, letters on top of that, it's just a few hundred, I think, around 7,
Okay.
6 or 7.
And that's the cage and everything you're all set with?
So no cage, but there's a compartment in the back, so it compartmentalizes the rear of the vehicle, so you can't gain access to certain stuff in there.
Is that everything that you need in the car?
Yes, including all the stuff that we have removed from the old Taurus. So the radio, the camera system, body camera mounts, that kind of stuff.
Just, I know it's a side note, but where does all the other, like shields or anything like that you need, medical equipment in the back? Where does that come from? Do you need new things for that car?
Currently, it's whatever equipment the officer is assigned
Yeah.
gets reused in that vehicle. Could always use more equipment,
I
but
was just gonna say, would you need to, and so that the spare has things, wouldn't you want that in this car, new items in this car?
preferably, but that'd be great.
I'm just thinking, include it in the quote, in all fairness, I want them to certainly be equipped with everything. If
Does
there's
that
any-
stuff expire?
I don't know what medical equipment they have, certainly if they have, I don't know if you have AEDs in the back of your car or something like that, then the pads and things like that would be.
Because I would be
But-
concerned with this, putting stuff in a vehicle that's a spare, that expires,
Yeah.
that we're just wasting money.
Yeah,
You might-
or, I mean, everything, I don't know, again, what your medical bags look like, but you would want it to be fully equipped in the back.
Right, but I would just assume
Yeah.
you would grab it if you're fixing one and put it in the spare. If you have to use a spare car, aren't they bags that you could just pull out of the trunk and put in?
I mean, yes, but what if it's, now you gotta have an officer switching off, so I'm not gonna advocate either way, I'm just saying, I'm just wondering if that, I just want you to take everything into consideration when you're.
Right, so looking forward, actually, I am planning on outfitting new medical equipment next fiscal year, so that's something I'm looking forward to. And there's not too much other things that need to be transferred back and forth. It's, it's whatever equipment they have in the vehicle, plus there would be like a rifle mount in there and whatnot too, so.
Do we have AEDs now in the cars?
We do not, we're not issued AEDs. That's again, looking a little further forward.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Does medical equipment expiring, your term,
Yes.
does that have anything to do with the outfitting, or are they separate subjects?
I'm just assuming if, I don't know what the medical equipment is, it's just that most medical equipment expires.
So it would expire whether we're gonna have a new car or not?
Depending on what's in there, I don't know.
That's the way I'm thinking, okay, good. All right, Board of Finance, up to $20,000. Anne Marie, we're allowed to make this up to 20, it's up within our authority. Good. Board of Finance, could I have a first, second? We'll take a vote for first. All right, second. Third, get the momentum going. With that in mind, all those in favor of allowing Cooper Kraus to spend up to $20,000 to outfit the new, and assume there should be still, if we received a new car, although you are rather confident, but if we received a new car, you could spend up to 20. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against? It passes. Thank you. Thank you. And the next item, property casualty. I had hoped that Carol Hanover would be here, who calls personal property her profession. It came to my notice when we were worrying about the basement. One of the questions we asked, if there was mold in the basement, would it be covered by our insurance? We began to look at our insurance. It became sort of obvious that the level of insurance, quality of insurance we had was old and inadequate. And as a consequence, we are exposing the town to, if there was a catastrophe, there would be a major expense to the town to replace this building. For instance, this building, I think, is insured to up to $1 million, which seems low.
I brought that up with Darlene, and she said that there was such an umbrella that's not true.
So,
Dick Waitman said that, and then when I asked her, she said, no, we have like 5 million like umbrella or something, so it can go to each property for.
Darlene or Mallory?
I thought it was, maybe it was Mallory, yeah.
Well, let's just put a totally new spin on all of this. So Carol called me yesterday to talk through some of these issues.
Carol Hanover.
Carol Hanover.
Okay.
I'm not going to pretend to be an insurance expert, but she did ask me to reach out to Kerma to get a listing of our properties with the total insured value on them. And Mallory was kind enough to turn that around for me very quickly. She said our new valuations were just recently completed. The number is significantly different. So let's use the town hall as an example. To Bud's point, the TIV, total insured value, used to be 1.2 million. Now it is more along the lines of 5 million. So
That's what she told me.
Now, you use the term valuation, that is what it would cost to repair, or what we're
the total
currently
insured value, I believe, is like how much you could get back from the insurance company.
Okay, good answer.
So Carol and I haven't had a chance to look at this together yet and kind of work our way through it. And I'm not sure if it would change her opinions on anything at this point.
She did have someone she believes is knowledgeable on the subject work with you, who reached the sort of same conclusion that we were underfunded.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you, Board of Finance, we found out there is money in the Park and Rec that will not be used. I would like to pull those dollars out and move it somewhere in our budget. So I'm not increasing the budget, I'm spending what has been approved already to hire, help me out, hire a property casualty consultant to look at our numbers and identify. We would probably have to bid out if they found something inadequate, right?
So whoever we hired, I would want them to be an insurance broker as well, because they would sort of automatically take care of that bid process for us in the nature of their work.
And you would want it, under your new policy, it would be required to bid out?
It would be required to get multiple bids. We would not have to put out a formal RFP.
Okay.
I'm guessing, based on
But let's
my
take it
understanding of the cost.
we would have to bid out if we were looking for someone to help us look at it. And then they would decide we need different insurance. That would have to be bid out as well, correct? We could not simply rely upon someone that Carol Hanover feels is more than adequate to do the job, correct?
No, I think we need to reach out to multiple experts, make that decision. And then are you asking about the actual process of getting new insurance on top of that, or are we sticking
No,
just
I
with
was
the
wanting,
experts?
I wanted somebody with knowledge to come in and look at what we have and determine what we should do from there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so generally that process would be, if we called some sort of a broker up and, asked them or explained what we were looking for, they would ask us to just send over all of our policies as they currently stand. And then they would do an assessment based on that information.
Okay. How would we go about bidding it? We could put this off for another time. To get someone in here to select it, start that process.
Well, I just kind of said what we would do to bid it. We would reach out to multiple experts, send them the information they required to make their assessment, and then they would come back with a price. So the
I
working.
would look at it for the following amount of money. I was assuming when you said you sent everything to them, they were all making an assessment of what we needed to get moved towards.
So the model that these, at least in my experience, that these folks work under is, an annual service fee.
Correct.
Essentially. So I believe they would kind of look at our situation and then they would come up with either a flat fee or maybe a fee based on a certain percentage of what we're spending on insurance. And that would be the figure we would be comparing from group to group.
Now, what Anne Marie said is important for this conversation. I was assuming we'd hire someone who would assess all of our policies. And at one point in time, we would acknowledge these policies would be fine. And every year we would renew them. What Anne Marie is suggesting is we would hire someone every year. Every year we would pay the fee to someone to look at our insurance, which means every year we would be putting, the way Anne Marie has stated, every year we would be putting into our budget some cost to have our policies reviewed and on call if we ran into problems.
What do other towns do? Because it seems like annually to review all the policies seems like a bit much.
That's
Like maybe
my
every 5 years,
conversation, but I'll let Anne Marie now take over.
My experience with only one other municipality that granted is larger than Deep River, they do this process every year.
How many properties do we have that they would be insuring, that we insure?
Well, they wouldn't just be looking at our property insurance. I know that was kind of specifically what Bud was speaking to, but these groups generally can take on workman's comp. They can take on cyber security insurance.
Very good point. Do we have officers and directors insurance as well? In case this Board of Finance was ever sued, do we have coverage for that?
I don't believe we do.
So I was very secular, thinking that insurance, it was for properties that the town owns, but it's not. You're talking about.
I'm talking about
when you
everything.
talk about policies.
Policies.
Yeah, property and casualty, it's a lot more, yes.
Yeah.
If one of our town crew accidentally hit someone's property, something like that would be covered by these policies.
Yeah, it's liability, auto, property, workman's comp, cybersecurity would be the ones that.
And do we currently have all those policies?
We do. Yes. Yes, we have our LAP, liability, auto, property, and workman's comp through KRMA. And our cybersecurity, I know the billing is through AFCO, but there may be another.
Like Abbott.
Yeah, Abbott. I think so.
And are those line items in our budgeting, Mary?
We have one line item for insurance and bonds.
But it's not listed out what it's for, what all those insurances are for.
There are not separate lines for each of those insurance.
Would that be a way of keeping a tighter track on them, or be more cognizant of what we're spending in each area?
It would probably provide more insight in the shifts.
Mm-hmm.
That because we only have one line in that, we'll call it department right now. For example, I know last year in signing off with KRMA for the 24-25 year, I think our LAP policy went up 5%, but our workman's comp went down 2.5%. So you would get insight into where more of the shifts
Yes,
are.
I think that would be helpful for the Board of Finance to be aware of.
We would just have to recognize that there could, as long as we're managing to that total line, we'd be okay. Because, we only get estimates on those increases or decreases at budget season. And we don't really find out the true amount until later, so.
How long do you think it would take you to get bids? I'm concerned, I want you to focus on the budget and the budget we're preparing and the audit. I don't want to take your attention away from those things. Would this be a lot of work?
I don't think so, especially if Carol Hanover agrees to help me out. She's much more familiar with the players in that area.
Yes.
So I think she could provide a lot of helpful guidance where I wouldn't necessarily be spinning my wheels on unhelpful resources.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Board of Finance, would you tolerate if I asked Anne Marie to start this process and bring back an estimate of what it would cost, either one time or whether it's an annual cost?
Makes sense.
Okay. To get more information. Thank you.
So you will actually reach out to 3 brokers?
Yes.
Okay, and then come back with the cost.
Yes.
All right, Anne Marie, with that taking of your time, it is you are on the agenda.
I'm on the agenda. So I think we already discussed this, but we will be scheduling a town meeting to talk about the purchasing ordinance. Once that goes into effect, we can implement that purchasing policies and procedures document in-house. Update on the October grand list. So Robin has completed the grand list for October of 2024, which is the grand list we will be working off of in creating the 25-26 budget. There have been some significant changes in the valuation of different types of property. I have a member of the Board of Assessment Appeals over here, so she can correct me if I'm wrong.
We got a lot of people coming to see us next month.
And so we see a very interesting swing across our 3 different types of property. You have your real estate, your motor vehicle, and your personal property. So normally, if all is well, we kind of see everything go up a little bit every year, which we see in our real estate and our personal, well, not even our personal property. We see it in real estate comfortably. Our motor vehicle and our personal property valuations have actually decreased. So the total impact to our grand list is that it's decreased by $566,100. So what does that mean as far as the budget goes? It means if we kept our mill rate flat going into next year, we would see a decrease in budgeted revenue of $17,764.22.
Say that again. If we keep the bill.
If we kept the mill rate flat into next year's budget, the impact of the change in the grand list would be $17,764.22.
And we should celebrate.
We
Carol will
should.
tell you, many towns, it's millions and millions of dollars. So we should be fortunate. But it is due to our legislators changing depreciation. Go for it.
Yes.
In the cars, right?
In the cars. Yes. I'm not going to get into that calculation because I really don't know it.
No, nor do I. Other depreciation, they changed it to, it's right now, I think they're going to a Blue Book type thing, right?
Yeah. It's almost like a Macker's, I think, if you want to get really technical.
So it's better for the consumer until they get a bigger real estate tax bill.
An excellent point. If we need the same amount of money, we will put more of it on real estate, that's correct. Or even their car will have to pay more, even though it has a lower value.
Any questions on any of that? All right, revenue projection from the solar project. So I know it has been understood that with the building of the solar farm out by DPW and the transfer station, we would be making about $43,000 a year on that property. The actual lease agreement states that they will pay Deep River $4,937.50 per megawatt per month. And the megawatts are based on the official as-built drawings filed with the building department. When the lease and the lease amendment were signed, the estimated size of that plant was 0.725 kilowatts originally, and that's how we got to the 43,000. In the amendment, it actually went up to 759 or 0.759 megawatts, but in actuality, it's only 675. So because it's smaller than anticipated, we will actually only be making $40,000 a year on the solar farm. So it's a decrease of $3,000 per year over what, 20 years?
20 years.
We assumed in the current budget we are working on, the 43 that you, so combining those two, we start our budget $20,000 less revenues coming in than we're started this year.
But can that megawatt thing change?
No,
No. It's how much those panels will generate.
no, it's
So
essentially
if
the
there's more
size.
sun, it won't create more
Right,
megawatts.
yeah,
Oh,
no.
darn.
I thought
I just thought,
yeah, it would have to be bigger. Yeah,
so
I thought the same thing.
we took all that land for 40 years, and all those ugly 20 years, for $40,000 a year.
Anne Marie, it was a decrease of what
$3,000 per year.
per month?
Year.
I'll put you on
Year.
speaker. Go ahead, Dwayne.
It was a 20-year lease that was worked out, I believe.
Yes, 20-year lease.
So it's 60,000 less than we thought we'd get.
In total.
But it was good eyes there, Dwayne, on the amount. That's what started this whole thing, down the rabbit hole. We're like, we're supposed to be making more money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we looked at the, wattage and all these different things. It was like kilowatts and,
The following
Lots of
question
megawatts.
has no use. Would we have been better off just assessing the value of the property rather than entering into this? And you can't answer the question. I just asked, said it out loud. But what's the value of that property and what would, if it had gone into the grand list, would we be better off? But nobody can answer that question. If I
I
can.
don't know, because it was a
It's a useless question.
formerly it was a capped landfill, so there's not, you have to do passive use. Like there was, we couldn't sell it to have anybody build on it.
We put a
Because it
fire
was a
department on
capped.
it.
I was just looking for the property that was on top of it. I don't know. I don't think it can be answered.
It can't be answered, but it had limited use, really. It couldn't be used for much, so.
All right. And tell us about the excitement that's ahead of us.
We are working through the audit. We are currently still working towards a completion date of March 31st. I reached out to our auditors today. I know they want to come on site one more time. So I'm hoping to get that scheduled in the next couple of weeks. I've given them probably about half of what they're looking for. There's some heavy hitter items that I'm hoping to finish up this week and pass off to them. And then it will be a lot of question and answer from there.
And I assume the definition of questions is you treated it a certain way in the accounting, asking to support
Support
it and
and
to agree or disagree with the way you treated it.
that is one big one. The other one is in them, they want to confirm with me in some of the manipulations that they do for financial reporting that I'm on the same page as them.
Okay. And and you still have an estimate that you will hold in abeyance until they are finished of what, you still continue to believe we will have a surplus from the June 30th?
I do.
All right, excellent. Cool. Okay.
And the last thing is just that we start, our first budget workshop is on Tuesday, March 4th at 7 p.m. So we have meetings every Tuesday for the next couple months.
It's next week.
That's
Yeah.
next week.
Next week, that's correct. Have you gotten all of the information you have asked for from all the key players, like boards, commissions, departments?
I have a few people I need to harass, for sure. And just
Big
questions.
numbers, small numbers?
It's already on here.
Um,
It goes
I have the majority of the big numbers,
Okay.
but I need to put some more love and attention into that too.
When you talk to those folks, do you share that we are always willing to have them come in and talk about their budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
And do you have any expectations that some will?
I do think some will
Okay.
be coming in. Yes, the school has
that's
already
the next
made an
one.
appointment.
When's
That's
school?
April 8th.
April
school.
8th, the school is coming in. Okay.
Anne Marie, just out of curiosity, how do you present to a department or a commission or whatever? What questions do you ask them to consider when they present their budget requests?
They don't do a formal presentation.
No, what would you ask them? How do you get information from them? By asking them what?
Well, I sort of agree with what Jackie has been saying, which is where we really need people to start giving us more data to support either an existing budget if the actuals have been running low, or if they feel they need an increase in some way, really be able to demonstrate what the value is.
Justify why they're asking for an increase?
But I do think that while I believe strongly that is the way forward, to spring it on people at this point in the year might be met with some pushback. So I think there will be a lot of working with people to, explain to them, looking at the value of a software and if it's going to save people this much time, like calculate what the value of that time is and things like that.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm picking up an undertone here. Are you getting resistance from people coming and putting their budgets together? Are we thinking this is going to be go crisply, or it's going to suit us well?
I'm getting no resistance. It's just you can't just say to somebody, I want this data, if they haven't been collecting it historically, then they have nothing to work off of. So that's all I meant by that.
Thank you.
But going forward, what I've asked is if people are looking for increases in their budget, to have the data to prove why you need it. And the example I had used was I'd been in a Carol's, roundtable of all the boards, and the library said, we're going to be coming to ask for all this stuff. Well, that's great, but show me the data. And it may be too late for this year, but if you need to buy more digital and want more money for digital books, how many people are using them? Like, I just think that we should have a little bit of data to back up increases in budgets.
Right.
That's all I have.
And that is all. All right, everyone. It is, anyone have any comments? Other than that, we shall look at the budget. That Anne Marie sent to us. This new report, which is grand, I'm not suggesting it, just taking me a few moments to get used to the final columns, how to use the final column, the last two columns. When it's called a available budget, which means that is the amount that is not spent. And that is true for both revenues and expenses. And then you go percent used / collected. So in revenues, that percentage is how much has been collected. For instance, let us advertise, let us celebrate tax revenues. We have collected 97.5% of the property taxes. And here we are in February. That's pretty good. And if you glance down at the other revenues, I shall not go into each one, we have collected in excess of what we budgeted. That is good. And when you look at the bottom, it says we have collected 98.3. If we did not reflect tax relief and tax exemptions, we would be over on our tax revenues, I assume. Because we've got those two negatives in there. We know we're giving tax relief to, is it tax relief, tax exemptions? One we give to the fire, and the other we give to elderly. Is that who it is? So, and they are negatives. They go in the opposite direction. So we would be over. License and permits. Let's take a moment and look at building permits. We have collected $85,000 in excess of what was budgeted. That is due to, you fill in here, school.
A lot is the school.
Okay. When we get to the expense side of building permits, you will see that he is over budget due to the schools. And if you net the two, I think we have, we are still generating cash due to the work at the schools. Conveyance tax, people are moving into Deep River. We budgeted 47 and so far we've got 50,006. And people are still coming. I shall point out to you, look at the next one, current service revenues. While Anne Marie has billed the WPCA for their annual fee of 30 and for their 100 contribution, they have not yet paid. I see no one should have any concern that they would not pay. Would you agree with that? Okay, but they have not paid. Nor have you asked them to pay. I mean, it's. I didn't mean in neglect, but so do not take.
It's been
it
a
for
recent ask.
Do not take it for anything more. Okay, good. I will not go through everything unless anyone wishes to stop at any particular spot. Anyone find anything interesting? Let's stop at Park and Recreation. First line, originally approved. We were expecting them to generate 133,331. Not totally sure I know the source of that, but they have collected 27,300. When we
page are you
get,
on, Bud?
I'm on. Let's see how that. Well, it's sort of the second page. Second page.
Okay.
And it's called miscellaneous revenues.
All right.
All right, and Park and Rec are in there. I'm going to suggest to you, when we get to Park and Rec and we look at self-generating projects, I think they're doing pretty good, doing okay. Would be my place to start the conversation. All right. With that on revenue, let's begin to look at expenses. Selectmen, let's look at total selectmen. Again, this is the 8th month, which if we spent straight line, which we do not, but salaries are mostly, we'd be about 66%, and you look at the bottom line on selectmen, that's exactly where they are in terms of expenditures. Carol, are you concerned? Anne Marie, are you concerned that the expense line for the selectmen is just about over? Are we going to have to accept that that's going to go over? Any thoughts? You spent 88, you had 3, you spent 266, 88, almost 90% of that's been spent. I think we'll be fine, bottom line, so I'm just curious.
You're talking about the expense allowance line?
Yes,
Yeah.
which I assume are expenses that Carol incurs.
I can double check that. That looks a little high. And I know we had some payroll getting booked to that account
All right.
correctly.
A good answer, a good answer.
Can I ask in this segment,
I don't have it in front of me. What's open?
The expense allowance line. It's
What's
a
that?
payroll figure. It's a flat amount that's paid out every
Oh,
month.
it's paid? Oh, it's paid straight out? It's
Yes.
not, you do not turn in expenses to get that
No,
reimbursement?
that's why we are like,
Okay,
it's Carol's.
then it does seem like it should be straight line. Okay.
I'm here too much to actually spend it.
it's your bottled water.
Elections.
Can I
We
just
have
ask on this, while we're on selectmen, on the grant writer, any plan on using that $1,000, and could we possibly apply it to John Skowski and direct him to do some grant proposal writing? Or it's not very much.
Yeah.
It's actually meant as a placeholder. If we needed a grant writer, we would increase that line.
But-
It's an excellent question. Do we need a grant writer for something?
Well, I was talking to somebody in Essex recently saying, it seems like every time we turn around, you're building something because you've got these grants. And it's like, yeah, we've got John Grzyboski. He finds these things and writes them for us all the time. That's how they got Hubbard Park and all these different things. So it's like, could we not just ask him if he could find grants for us and write them?
Yeah,
You can
he's-
get a
he's
list of
been working
grants
with me.
online.
He's been working on our steep grant and stuff like that, so he's been doing some work for us.
He's been doing work for us, yeah.
But does he have the time or the interest to see if there's anything else out there that we might be eligible for that we?
I've talked to him about that.
Is it him or members of his firm? He is actually a member of a greater group.
But he actually has town planner title, they use them for more in Essex than we
Yeah.
do. We use them more for.
Is he in
the-
Essex? He's in Chester as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We kind of use them more for the zoning component, and they seem to do a lot more
Well, that's what I'm saying. Could we use some of this money to use him a lot more like that?
yeah, I have spoken to him about that.
That'd be great.
Should we put him, should you talk to him about fire department grants? Is that something you could do? Or do you specialize in certain types of grants?
I think he does more grants that are kind of associated
zoning.
with master planning and, downtown zoning and that sort of thing, but I could certainly throw that
He's the
in.
one who got the grant for us for the online files, right?
Could you get a better sense, Jackie, of what they got in Essex
Sure, I
specifically?
can ask.
I mean, that might help shape
Yeah.
us what we might want to do.
Yeah, no, the sidewalk projects, he was working on sidewalks for me here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
All right, elections, let's look at bottom line, 58.8. We've got, how many elections we got left? Certainly school. And we generally bring them to the town, so that could be a bit tight, but we'll make it, all right? Okay, everyone, that's about, that's the exciting part. Anyone have anything that they find interesting thereafter? I shall not stop, just on common interest. And here, again, when you look at the building inspector, you see that while he is over budget by 21, he is collecting, what's the number we said? 84? So that seems fine. Town hall operations, I am quite, we should get happy faces. Fuel, we're only spent 56, 57%, and it's, hopefully the spring is coming. Same as with water, we're doing fairly well. Well, there is a lag in those numbers, isn't there? But we should be okay. Let's declare we will be okay. Electricity seems to be under stress, though. 88, and I assume that that's a lagged bill as well.
My assistant and I are under stressed when it comes to electricity. We're having some issues with Eversource supplying our checks to the wrong places and receiving multiple shut-off notices.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I'm told we are not the only ones suffering, which makes me feel a little better, I guess.
Until they turn your power off.
They were only gonna shut off the library at that
Oh
time.
no, we've gotten calls at other buildings too, but, so we're looking into it, we're figuring out if, maybe that is a vendor we need to start paying online so that we're directly applying various pieces to the proper accounts.
Well, okay. Sounds wise.
I mean, how many statements do we get from Eversource?
Oh my gosh, Jackie saw it too.
Yeah.
Twenty-
I was logging
at
them in, it
least
was
20
like 20.
per month.
or something?
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's just
And
crazy.
Every single
each
light
building
bulb
gets
is a bill.
its own
Every light
statement,
bulb.
or
Each light
they
bulb is a
don't,
bill.
they don't consolidate it?
Stacks of
I know.
Eversource.
Each building is its own separate account. We have various accounts that group, there are small groups of the street lights, like the traffic light has its own
Bill.
account. It's a lot.
Right, so we're writing all these checks and then we get shut-off notices and it's like, well,
Yeah, and I mean, the check
You know.
stubs have the account numbers on them. There's really no reason for this.
Interesting. Let us pause for a moment at special services, contingencies, which we've chatted about. This is where the rentals for the pumps are. I'm suggesting, well, here you go. I will suggest the Board of Finance and Marie, you will come in. We're just going to accept that we are over on the contingency, and if we place other things, we will, I do not suggest we go to the town and ask for additional monies for that line. We will just accept that it may go over, and we will address it at the end of the year, rather than piecemeal. Steve, police officer, and Steve, you promised me, by the way, this is meant to be humorous, you promised me that your miscellaneous and training would not go over, but it's going over by $500. You will once again promise me this will never happen again.
The miscellaneous was Officer Dottridge, who was just here, needed a tourniquet for his uniform, and the holster and stuff. Yes.
But it's good, so you are comfortable that what is remaining, you will not need emergency funds?
I believe so. I was talking to Carol regarding the full-time officer position. The amount that was allotted there doesn't cover full-time 40 hours for him. I've addressed that in my budget proposal for the upcoming year. that I submitted to Anne Marie, but we are currently down one officer after resignation for part-time, so we might just hold off on hiring somebody in the meantime to
Okay.
compensate.
So in summary, we may go over line items, but your total budget should be about what you were approved. Okay,
Correct.
that is a good answer. Let's see, police department, fire marshal. Let's take a glance at highway department. I am quite struck that, I'm positively struck, but I'm going to ask Anne Marie. I'm positively struck, we've only spent about 56%, lower than what I'm expecting, on highway salaries. And they've been out there in snow. I would have expected it to be a higher number. This is the true New England weather that we are having. I would have thought those numbers higher. So you can agree with me, which, I don't know, you can agree with me. That could end this conversation. Is there too much money in there? And you don't have to answer. It's a rhetorical question. It's not looking for an answer. It seemed like it should be used more if we were out plowing, but it's actually lower than what a normal run would be. I'm just wondering if there's dollars we could take out of there and put someplace else.
There has always been a cushion on that line.
We upped it a couple years ago because there was people who were taking all these tests. All right, let's think about it as part of the budget. And just because the rest of the world is talking, sand and salt and sand, 34%. I thought everybody's running out of salt and sand. Shouldn't we be running out? Well, that's why we haven't spent money.
We just got, I think, the final delivery. Eric expects to possibly go over in that line.
Oh, really?
By a
That's a
little
big
bit.
delivery, isn't it?
Mhm.
Okay.
How come there's been no money spent, basically the town aid?
That is for paving, which is done in the spring.
Okay.
Good. All right. Recycling salary seems a little high, but should we be concerned about the little high?
I do expect we will go over a little bit in that line. That was due to having to rotate in, well, we have been rotating in some of our highway department guys.
The town crew is up there and they get paid overtime.
And they get paid overtime for that work. But
Will
now,
that be, you've hired a new person out there, so we won't have the town crew up there?
yes.
That's the.
Excellent. Remind me of stories about Mira tipping fees. I thought we were always under stress that they were going to go up and we would not have budgeted enough. Seems like we almost were under budget substantially.
Yes, I did take a look at this line. We are not behind in the billing. It just appears that the monthly rate that we're seeing is lower than anticipated. More like between $6,000 and $8,000 when we budgeted for 10.
That is good. Does that mean we have reduced what we take to them?
Maybe the sustainability.
That's what we're
That's what
hoping.
we're doing. Did
The
that do it?
scraps are up and, yeah, we're hoping it's working out that way.
And my husband said when he was up to the dump, I guess on Sunday or whatever, Friday, Saturday, whatever, somebody was actually turned away. He said the guy came in with his garbage or trash, and Bob wouldn't let him in because he didn't have a sticker. And the guy went and took his bags, and he was going to throw them in the dump anyways. And I guess Bob had to physically restrain him and put the bags back in his truck. And the guy went off in a huff and a puff, but he was not allowed to get rid of his trash.
Wow.
Fascinating.
Yeah, Bob said they turned away quite a few people. He was at the Board of Selectmen meeting. But,
Were they town residents that just didn't get their stickers or out-of-towners?
it sounded like quite a few had expired stickers, but.
An interesting story. And let's stop for a moment at Park and Rec. You will see Park and Rec new program, self-funding. They are expecting to spend, let's do it, 44,000, and we collected 27. They've spent 22, 23. So, same conclusion. Seems like they're doing fine. All right, and I remind everyone, and I don't know what to do with it. At Jackie's request, we put $50,000 of capital into this budget, which we have used 0 of to date. other than saying, I don't know what to do. Is there any things that should be capital?
The ceiling.
Plenty.
Well, is there some that we
We
should
could
draw
put the
upon?
ceiling in the auditorium right in there. I mean, I could get at least one more company to come in and then just move forward with it, get that taken care of.
Well, that's interesting.
If the money's.
That number, the money's sitting there. Not that we can certainly save money, but if we've budgeted those dollars, it seems like a possible use.
And what about the building maintenance plan? Could some of that come out of here?
Building maintenance.
You know, we could put a plan together on repairing all that.
Well, we were gonna do that RFP, so I don't know.
We're not ready, we're not there yet.
Well, the RFP's done, I just had had asked 2 people to look at it that haven't looked at it yet. So we were gonna put out an RFP for, kind of similar to what the school did, to have a study of all our facilities,
Yes.
town buildings, and, which would include things we already know, like we'd go to the firehouse, like new roof, kind of thing, but then we could prioritize where we put the money in the future.
You sort of put that in a past tense. We prepared an RFP, we're going to prepare an RFP. It does sound like an awfully noble thing to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, I keep eating lifesavers. We have the RFP I've prepared, I have 2 people editing it for me, and then we're gonna send it out. So I don't know what the turnaround time is gonna be. If that's, Catherine was suggesting perhaps the RFP comes in, and now we have some money to actually hire the companies to go do this work for us. Because once the prices come in, then we'll be looking for money to fund that study. At this point, it's just.
Now, is the expectation they would do it periodically? Is it the same as my insurance, one time and it's done, or is it done annually?
I think
Is
at
that
this
something we need
point,
to put in the budget?
well, I mean, why don't we wait till we see, cross that bridge?
I like it.
Wait till we get the document and see if it is something that, they might say, you should address this yearly or every 3 years, have it done.
It would be a document like what the fire department has, as far as like their needs. It's like a needs assessment.
You need a new roof here, you need a new
Yeah, so then
siding
we
on
can
here.
prioritize and then every
You've
year.
got
Yeah, I shouldn't,
Yeah.
but my question is that done annually, or is it done every 5
Well,
years?
in the best of
You
all
put it in your
worlds,
budget.
we do
Because we
something
talked
annually,
about
but we're not
having
there.
someone on staff who
Yeah.
could hire a person to do that, and they would constantly be reviewing town buildings to see, so we weren't taken by surprise. All right, I like your outlook. Let's wait for it to come in and see what they said. Well done. All right. All right. Anyone have any questions on the budget that they did not think we dealt with properly? With that in mind, does anyone have any new business they would like to chat about?
Not new, but do we want to just quickly review the parking lot?
Yes, we do. And that's where I want you to bring it up. Perfect.
Just before we start the budget workshops to see if there's anything that,
Perfect. Anne Marie, you are in the parking lot?
I'm in
Are ready to go into the parking lot?
You're gonna kick me out of the parking lot. Well, so I sent this out without taking the time to update it. I apologize, but we can kind of go through things now. As far as the purchasing policy, that's in a pretty good place. I think we can almost mark that as complete at this point. Capital budget plan, I'm getting feedback from the major players, fire, police, highway. There are other groups too, Park and Rec and the library, that usually have requests. But we do need to allocate a bit more of our budget workshop time, I think, into that more the 5-year outlook, which
Certainly Carol's plan that we just talked about
would be very
be
helpful.
part of it, of that.
do you have an extra copy?
I do have. I haven't taken
notes on
copies
it.
of this. So there's that. The telecom expense evaluation, that would be, I believe, the first area that we would ask School Mitchell to look at, if that all gets completed. Comprehensive review of the property and casualty insurance we just discussed this evening. I'll touch base with Carol further on that and kind of see which direction we want to go. The tree contractors were completed. Fleet policy to govern use of municipal-owned vehicles, including requirements for lettering vehicles. Obviously, we've made strides in certain areas regarding this. Carol and I have discussed, based on IRS guidance, what the best thing to do would be moving forward as far as taking the use of town vehicles, for commuting purposes or whatever else there may be, into account properly for those fringe benefits. I've looked at the policies that other towns have. Probably the most significant thing to note here is that emergency vehicles, which encompasses fire and police that are clearly marked, are exempt from those fringe benefits.
Say that again, please.
Any emergency vehicle, fire, police vehicle that's clearly marked as such, they would be exempt from that fringe benefit requirement that the IRS has for using like a company vehicle.
So if they're marked, they don't have to pay taxes on it or for the extra
Emergency
benefit?
vehicles only.
Emergency.
Yes.
So that's not Public Works or?
Public Works wouldn't apply. WPCA would not apply.
Would apply, right?
The IRS guidelines would apply
Okay.
to those groups. But there are sort of two options from the IRS's perspective on all of that. The first would require folks to keep logs of their personal versus business mileage, which I don't know that would be the most effective methodology. The other option is to create a policy by which we can use, I forget exactly what they call it, but essentially it would just use a flat rate of $1.50 per commute. So for every working day, essentially, there would be a fringe benefit of $3 added onto their W-2.
Regardless of the mileage?
Regardless of the mileage. But just to be clear, we don't see any of that money, like that $3. That would just be money that they would then be taxed on for their personal tax purposes.
So you don't deduct $3 from their payroll?
There's a couple of different ways to go about it. I think the easiest one visually is, if you get your W-2, there's often the box where it shows your retirement contributions and things of that nature. It could end up in a box on there. There's also a deduction option too. I would just have to look into what the simplest approach is.
So they would be required, you would increase their income by the $3 per day?
No, they would get no additional cash. It would just appear as, the best example is anyone whose company provides them with life insurance. So you don't see that at all in your bank account at any point throughout the course of the year, but when you get your W-2, there is a notation on it that states you received life insurance for the value of X amount for the course of the year, and that money is taxed.
But by bringing us to one of these options, it would bring us in compliance with
Correct.
the law.
Yes, correct.
So how close are we to having a written policy and moving forward on this time-wise?
I have not been able to prioritize this. I have too much going on with the budget and audit. I think we could probably leverage things that are out there. But again, like Bud said, I really need to spend my time on this. We really need to wrap up that audit.
So the accomplishment on that particular box is that all the vehicles of the town are lettered.
Police, fire,
DPW, I forgot to report. They all got done today. We're done.
Okay. And personal use restrictions, tracking of mileage, gas, and maintenance expenses are not.
No.
Is that a big figure?
I don't believe so.
So not a significant figure to be worried about.
But even putting a policy in place wouldn't change the figures. We wouldn't be charging our employees for using the vehicles.
What we'd be doing, Colonel, is complying with IRS law. And I don't know, not as familiar with IRS law to even know what would happen, but it's something probably should have been doing for years. How comfortable are we knowing we're in non-compliance, letting this ride? I don't know what we're hearing, 4 months, 6 months, another year, because we've been talking about this.
Is that something we can get in place by the next fiscal year? So we start July 1st with the... Do you
I think
see
that
any
would be a
kind
good-
of window of opening for you to get that done?
Yeah, I think we could work towards that goal of July 1st. And, you know, the impact isn't formally entered anywhere until December anyway.
Okay.
So.
I mean, because then it just seems like everybody's, you know, kind of starting new paychecks and all those things. You know.
Well, to your point, it does sound like a noble date, except you don't pay taxes July to July. Sort of off federal, but start somewhere is better than not starting at all. Okay.
I'm still not clear on this though. So for us as a town to, it says fleet policy to govern use of municipal owned vehicles, including requirements for lettering, requirements for personal use restrictions, tracking of mileage, gas, and maintenance expenses. If a car or a vehicle is used for personal use, does that cost the town in gas and maintenance, mileage, all of that? Doesn't
Yeah, of
that
course it
come
does.
as a cost to the town? Should we know that?
It would be very difficult to track.
Because we don't have a policy? Or if we had a policy, it wouldn't be adhered to? I don't know what you're
It
saying.
would be difficult to enforce.
How do other towns handle it? Or private business, how do they handle it?
Well,
They turn in monthly statements.
Yep.
This is what my mileage is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an assumption that from home to work is this many miles.
So, a
So you
certain
subtract
amount of
that and
mileage.
everything else is personal use.
What do you do in your towns?
We're exempt. This emergency personnel are
Yeah.
exempt.
So you don't have, your vehicles can be used privately, personally?
The command staff takes theirs home. Everyone else in patrol, they log on their mileage every morning with dispatch. And then they keep that record, give it to the fleet guy, but the guys who do take their cars home, they're exempt.
So I take mine.
All first responders are exempt from
But I
personal
still
use
track the
from that
mileage,
number.
because we still need to, so we keep track of how much gas is used and with all of the.
And oil
peak
changes and
challenges.
stuff like that, but as
So-
far as,
So I guess my
IRS.
question is, if we kept accounting of it, is there any savings to the town to do that? Or is it just extra work? Does it make any difference if you do this?
Well, who takes their vehicles home
I don't know.
in town that aren't emergency personnel? I mean, I don't imagine the town,
Eric does.
Eric does.
so he would get that number on his W-2 every year. Basically, that superficial number, whatever it is.
Yes, exactly.
Everyone else, fire, police, they're exempt from it. You can still track their mileage for fleet use and oil changes and maintenance, but as far as IRS, they're exempt from it.
It seems to me if somebody is using a town-owned car, and I'm not directing this to anybody or any department or whatever, but if a town car is, or a city car is being used for personal use, all that gas usage, maintenance on the car, blah, 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 that has to cost the town or the city extra money to support that.
It's in the insurance.
What's that, Glenn?
It's in the insurance.
So should we have a directive or whatever, a restriction, a policy that delineates how town vehicles can be used?
Yes.
Yes, having a policy is a good idea.
And you're saying if we did, it wouldn't make any difference because it would be hard to enforce?
I guess what I'm saying is I kind of see it in two different lights. You can either take that cost, that personal cost that you're talking about, And you can either think of it as, we have provided this vehicle to our employee, we pay them a certain amount, but this is an additional benefit on top of that. The only other way, I think, to reduce your costs, other than just, putting in a policy to prevent certain activity, would be to ask the employee to pay us back for their personal use. And I just don't think that's realistic, personally.
Okay. I don't see a way to solve it, and it seems to be, would be a cost savings for the town.
Particularly on the gas, constantly, on the mileage, on the wear and tear on the vehicles.
But I mean, am I thinking about it wrong? Like, are you essentially saying, if Eric, as an example, were to turn in a mileage log and, X amount of miles were for personal, you'd want him to write a check to the town for that much money?
I don't know. How many of our vehicles are used as personal cars?
Well,
How many vehicles
we're
do we
told
own?
none.
Yes, we're told no.
We're told none. Our employees say, yeah, we take it home, it's parked, and then we take our personal vehicle to go do our things. So unless you kind of spy on
Follow.
people, you have to
Right,
trust them,
Except at the WPCA, which are not technically town employees. There, the staff is using it 100% for whatever use they want.
Yeah, I agree with Anne Marie. It's nothing you can have the employee write you a check for at the end of the month, how much they use the car. You just, if they are using the car, that's something in negotiations you use for their salary. It's a benefit. How much roughly is that worth? Okay, you want to raise, well, your take-home car is worth X amount. It kind of factors into that instead of having them write the town a check every month of how much they use the car.
Then at the same time, I agree with that, so that's the money side of it. But then when we look at risk assessment, I think that a policy should be in place so that we're in good faith the person has the vehicle, but if it's misappropriated or misused, the policy then covers us and goes to the insurance policies as well, so that way we're not allowing behavior.
That is definitely the bigger reason to put this
So I
policy in
would
place.
say policy, yes, not expecting checks back from people.
Yeah.
Too much tracking, where a policy is simple, it just sits there. And
You might deter good employees away.
what with the policy?
No, if you want people to write you a check, they're gonna.
Oh, yeah, that's, I don't know of anybody who does anything like that. So,
I don't know that we've ever factored that in as a benefit in actual salary discussions.
I mean, it should be.
Yeah.
It should be. It's a big benefit to people if they have that.
Yeah. So net, we're gonna see something by July 1 for the IRS and the policy, not till July also?
The policy would be the July, the IRS reporting doesn't happen until December.
I think so.
December?
December, yeah. We discussed the town's bond rating and interest rates. That will be addressed when we move forward with the firehouse. I think we need to revisit the question on the pension fund. If retirement eligible employees requested a lump sum, how would the town finance the disbursements? I think I haven't heard from Jeremy since that meeting. He said he would kind of get some stuff together and then we would call another meeting, but we can certainly
circle back. Yeah.
circle back.
So what's the main target date for that one?
I don't have one, because I know there are some other things in play after that last meeting. If you recall, the last meeting with Jeremy sitting here, and we had the One America folks on the TV. Jeremy was supposed to come back to me, and I'm remembering now with some stuff that I never saw. So,
I'm just gonna do what I always do. I really think we need to have dates for these things. We had set a date the last time we discussed January 1, now making a progress. Even if you say I can do this by March 1 or by whatever, we should have a date so that
Well,
we
that'd be
can
good, March
review
1
this.
this week.
Yeah.
March 1 is Saturday.
You can have it done by then.
It's hard to believe it's gonna be March 1.
I really don't want to put a date on it, Catherine. I feel like I'm going to keep spinning dates out at you and just have to push them off, push them off, push them off.
Well, and I understand how much there is to do and how much has gotten done this year in finance, which is, you know, really terrific from where we were a year ago. But just for general management purposes, I get uncomfortable that going back to this fleet policy and all of that, and the IRS, this has pretty much been here for almost a year, and now we're pushing it off for another year to get the IRS in, not till December. So that is why I do believe we have to put some target and then readdress it, maybe shift the priorities or whatever. Or maybe even look at for some of these top priority things, do we get some extra arms and legs to knock off a couple of these? But I want to go on the record, I'm uncomfortable with just having them drift with no dates.
Can we go through the rest of the list and then come back to this so that I can make a more informed assessment?
But the
Did
list,
you not initially
it's
rank them
remarkable how much
high, medium, low?
progress you've made.
as a
I'm
wooden
not
date?
happy going through this. I
Well,
haven't done it in a while.
I know.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, there you go. Yeah.
But that was the one only because we have to decide how we're gonna, if we have how many employees retiring, how we're gonna pay them. It just seems to me that that's something that the Board of Finance should figure out. And it should
So
be
the
under
spec
explained.
plate's done, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so that wouldn't get a gold star now.
What's that one?
Advanced distribution of Board of Finance documents 2 to 3 business days prior to scheduled meetings.
Carmella gave you a gold star.
I get
Yeah.
a star.
I'm putting it down on the thing.
It's greatly appreciated.
I'm trying. Although last month I didn't quite nail that one.
That wasn't on you though.
The next one's done too.
Restructure budget document to break out line items with additional detail. I think we can certainly go through that in our budget workshops. I think that would be the right place to do that. I know we were just talking about the
So, budget
insurance.
workshops.
Yeah. Distribution of WPCA budget at monthly meetings. That I would put it out there that that's
Didn't work too well last year.
What I would say about this, Carol and I have been attending most of these meetings, they've now got themselves on a tighter, more professional, timely, structured financial
And they have
reporting basis.
named a treasurer or a finance
Yeah.
person or something, so.
So remove it from here?
I think we move
Okay.
it from here.
I think the thing with WPCA, just keep an eye on, is that we actually get the financials in time to include, as required by ordinance, with our annual budget presentation to the
Budget
town.
presentation. Second Monday of May.
So I'll update this to say that.
Third Monday of May.
Thank you.
The public hearing or the town meeting?
Town meeting.
Town meeting, third Monday.
We never did see their budget, did we?
I don't think so. Well, it wasn't voted on until
They didn't vote
September.
on until September.
Voted down.
Yeah. It was voted down in
We didn't get
June.
approved till, what was it? October?
I have access to that budget, so I can make sure that it's in the right format for that meeting.
Nice.
Comprehensive report of town-owned assets, inclusive of land, buildings, equipment. The document I just got from Kerma today actually covers probably the majority of this.
What's Kerma?
Kerma is our insurance agent for our
Property
lap
casualty.
policy.
Is that something you could share with this group?
Yes, absolutely. That is just a little bit of background. They do these, revaluations of the property every so often. I think, is it 3 or 5 years? Every so often. So I think that budget was actually, or that document was just completed in the last few weeks. But I can share
How
that.
do you substantiate for the annual report the value of the assets?
Well, it's purchase price.
So you go back to the purchase price and straight line depreciation?
Mhm. Well, we don't even do that on the town side.
How do we
Only the WPCA reflects depreciation.
But that would be a list of all of our assets.
We do, we have that, my other thought was to bump that against what the auditors have
Yeah.
on file. That, which might get smaller.
Because the auditors, you, and then the auditors will make a list of our, what you capitalize will go into that list.
Oh, yes. It's long.
Should be. And this list would be long as well.
Yeah. But the KERMA document is very current and would take care of, I think, the majority of the value of everything.
Good.
Legal expenses and process for selection of qualified municipal attorney. The purchasing policy kind of states that this falls under professional services, so they wouldn't necessarily go through a formal RFP process, but if it wants to be discussed among the selectmen, whether or not that should be reassessed every so often.
I don't remember what we were looking at legal expenses. Was that just to figure out how much we're spending?
Or a
Is that
lawyer?
what the request
Or a
was in
town
there?
lawyer?
Yes.
Like, what are we spending on an annual basis?
I'm not really sure.
Board of Finance, what was here? This is, I don't remember when this came up or what we wanted.
I think
You know
there's
what you're,
some
you're got a legal budget,
It's been
you know what you
terrible.
spent.
Is that the RFP for the lawyer you just read?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't
I think
need
there
one.
was some
You
question
don't
whether we were getting good representation for the town.
Is that why the
Without
qualified is in there?
shopping
Yeah, possibly.
that around. Whoever brought that up way back when, that is, I believe, somebody was questioning if our town attorney was serving our needs correctly or something like that.
Do we still need it as on the list?
I think that's a selectman's decision. I don't know that needs.
I feel very comfortable with our legal representation. I was not one that put it on that list, so the Board of Selectmen can talk about it. Dwayne is still online, but we've adjourned for the evening, so we can talk about it at another meeting.
So delete from this list?
I have to, yeah.
Okay.
Develop pay grade salary bands for all union and non-union positions. Yes. The union contract should be opening up for negotiations by December or January. This coming December or January. So I will have it to have those prepared in time for those negotiations.
Great.
Internal tracking and reporting for services provided to WPCA and other town-related entities. We do this. I'm not sure, I don't remember going too far into detail on this. If people want to see that level of detail, like, how much the WPCA is reimbursing us for gas, like, is that essentially what people are looking for here?
And I think one of the questions was the services we provide for the WPCA, are we being reimbursed for those services?
We are.
$30,000, that's okay.
And you actually did that calculation,
The
cost of what we provide to the WPCA.
I wouldn't say it was a calculation, more of a sanity check to make sure it was in line with the services they were receiving.
And you felt comfortable that things were fitting in there correctly?
I think so.
Last time you did this.
So then this is complete.
Yeah, unless people want to see additional information.
Well, has been some discussion at the WPCA board of they're not getting all the services they need, whether or not they're getting what they're paying for. They may be more, I don't remember where this is sorted out, but they may want to, they pay out of their own budget additional
Yes.
bandwidth for you. Did that get solved? Or is that just still under discussion? I don't remember when we
The
said.
WPCA contributing more, I think it's still under discussion.
Okay, so,
Yep. More to come there.
but it wouldn't come out of our funds, it would come out of their funds.
Require department heads to attend Board of Finance meetings when their budget or requests for capital are being discussed. That is something we could pursue. I know this kind of always been presented to department heads as, if you want to defend your budget or ask questions at a workshop, you're welcome to schedule an appointment. It would require us creating a schedule in advance of what we're going to talk about for each workshop, which if the board is amenable to that, I'm happy to do it and work with the department heads to make sure they're able to attend.
I think there was the expectation that would happen with this being here. So I would be in support of that happening.
And you want everyone, all department heads? Because that might be tough.
I think it's overload.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain departments that it absolutely makes sense.
I think if you're asking for an increase in your budget, you should come and explain it.
That's how it always was sort of, if you were kind of keeping the, you know, and why waste everybody's time in a way, you know?
Right.
But like if the library, when they brought that up at the, you know.
Yeah, and I just use them as an example,
Well,
because I'm sure it's all
exactly. So using that
$3,000,
example,
but,
they would be someone,
Yeah.
and make sure we invite them in kind of thing.
right.
Okay, so I can assess based off of that and make a schedule and share it. Comprehensive review of all park and rec self-funding programs.
Next year after the new director's been in place for a year.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. It's hard to do that without the park and rec director in place.
The only thing is, I think it comes into play going into the new budget cycle, because if I recall last time, we kept saying, well, that's self-funded, that's self-funded, that's self-funded, and they almost got a hall pass, because it was self-funded, but are they really self-funded? So I think we're at a perfect time to do it. I realize there's no director, and I realize you're swamped, but I'd hate to...
What do you have, what are your questions?
I don't know.
I can answer everyone.
You can answer them all on whether something is self-funded or not.
Absolutely.
They're all
So
identified.
This all came up from the
Yeah.
finance people. It wasn't from the Board of Selectmen
Oh,
asking
no,
that.
exactly, so I can certainly help.
Where I get uncomfortable is they claim something self-funding, and you just saw the revenues coming in. It does not always cover. It does not, it's not covering what their expenses are.
So maybe if we keep the program, we just relabel it. Either that or adjust it in some way for self-funding.
Or it got kind of mislabeled because our former finance director, I know she would say, like if we were collecting registration fees, we had to call it self-funding, but sometimes you try to give scholarships, you don't want to turn any kids away, or you had to buy more equipment, so then it didn't end up being like a wash, basically. A self-funding, to me, was always kind of a wash, bringing, you know, money here, you're spending money here, kind of, unless you were planning to make a revenue on it, but so it might be something that was advised differently before, and now under Anne-Marie, maybe there are some tweaks that have to be made with those programs, you know.
So whenever we can schedule the Park and Rec budget review, we will take this into account in that discussion.
Sounds good.
Consider breaking out salaries for each department. I would say the majority of our salary lines only have one or two people in them as they currently stand. I'm not sure how much more detail I could provide.
And we actually combine them just to protect the employees.
And that's my...
So,
Excellent. I get a little uncomfortable
Yeah.
that everyone, it's part of being a municipality. Everyone, here's how much everyone in town makes. Lumping them together, I think, gives people, but I don't know, it's up to you guys.
so what are you thinking? You don't want them lumped together?
I like seeing lumped together.
I do too.
I don't know why it was even here. What, do we remember what drove us to put this here? About breaking it out? It must have come up at some...
I just typed what everybody sent me, so I can't even tell you who asked that question. I was just the
So it's no
secretary.
longer a burning interest of anybody's.
No.
It's just hard because
Okay,
you
we'll take
do
it
want
up
to
then.
figure out how much it costs to run each department, but when you only have one or two people in a
Right.
department, there's,
I think the next one is completed.
assessment of incubator park property for possible sale and lease renegotiation. Sale certainly is on its way.
This is done.
Yep, the ARPA awardees got their letter. Restructuring of police force to ensure a focus on community patrolling / development of police staffing policy. I know that quite a few policies have been developed in the course of the accreditation process that we now have on file. I don't know if community patrolling is specifically addressed in any of those at this point, but that is also listed on here as more of a selectman topic, so we could just put that one.
I think this probably still needs some more work on our side.
I've been talking to Steve about those different things, so yeah, we'll work on that.
The majority of the rest of these are Board of Selectmen. Development of a detailed cost for transfer station enhancements. I would say we probably took care of a lot of that with the remaining
I think we
ARPA
did.
funds.
That's completed.
$1,000
Yep. Yep.
stuff like that, yeah.
Develop plan to evaluate regionalization of the 3 tri-town elementary schools. I know there's
That's
ongoing
ongoing.
talks on that, so.
Ongoing talks.
Ongoing talks.
Is that being done?
There are some talks ongoing, yes.
Meetings or just people?
Yeah.
Yes?
You know, it was covered in the Board of Selectmen meeting, Carmella. There's been conversations the first selectmen have had together, and additional conversations with Chester and Deep River first selectmen. In about a month's time, they're going to be ready to expand it, include a broader group of people looking at it. Right now, it's under information, specific data being asked to be supplied by the school superintendent.
And how would you judge the reaction to that?
Well, right now, I think it's kind of like grassroots effort, like just to get all the information before it becomes a bigger public conversation. You know? So I don't know really how to judge it. I've had pros and cons. People come in yes and no, and this is why it will work, this is why it won't. And, so it might be 50-50 for all 3 towns. I don't know.
So we don't even know what it is yet, fully.
We don't know what the it is. That's true. We just know we have too many schools and not enough kids.
So it's still probably a number 1 priority for the selectmen to be working on.
Develop updated job descriptions for town hall staff.
So we hired a consultant who wrote all the job descriptions.
Yes.
Do you have,
I have them.
you have them?
Mm-hmm.
So
We could probably use more, quite frankly.
But didn't they need to be
More
updated?
what? More
Or
descriptions
something
or
had to
more
be done?
jobs?
Descriptions.
So what-
Yes, more
what is-
jobs too, but let's be realistic.
But with some seriousness, this came on, that consultant had already written that report when this came up. So what was it you wanted here? Updated job descriptions from that report. This request came after that report. So what is it we're being asked to do? Does anyone remember here?
I don't know if the descriptions themselves were circulated in the same nature as the actual study.
and were they rolled out?
No. No, and
So I think it had to do with the fact that we hired a consultant, and all part of the process of budgeting was people having their own job descriptions. So that, are they being paid fairly? And so we hired the consultant, controversial or not, that's beside the point, but she did write some very nice job descriptions. I think they should get rolled out to the employees to say, does this match what you do? And if not, shouldn't we bring somebody in to
Certainly during
finish that
It was
job?
rolled out during that process.
Say that again?
It was rolled out during that process.
Right.
They all participated in helping write.
Yep.
And they reviewed what was written.
So it's really just a matter of implementing these new job descriptions, giving them to everybody, say, is
This is what you're
this
responsible
correct
for.
now?
Yeah, and I think there are holes as well. I
Yeah.
think there are some jobs that don't have descriptions, so there would be an effort there to kind of look at,
But there's a nice template in place
Right,
now
exactly.
to make it easy to write them.
right.
So who does that?
It'll probably be HR person, which is Emery.
So can we not,
So we don't want to put one more thing in.
Right.
I can send out the job descriptions to all the employees and just say, please review these, and then get them back to me, and I'll get them back to you.
Right.
If that's kind of what that parking lot item had to do with, right?
and if there's more to be written, should we not, I'm not sure if it's that person, but somebody else in the HR world to come help do that? And spend a few $1,000s to finish
That's
this?
definitely where we need help in HR.
Yeah.
Yes.
if we could hire a HR.
So I think that's where this
consultant.
comes in, is just to finish that so people have their job descriptions.
Does that have to be part of a union negotiation? I don't know. Here's your job, you're a member of the union, here's your job description, does that have to be part of the union negotiation?
I would say I would want these done before the union negotiation. I don't know that you officially have to submit. Like, I don't think you get your wrist slapped if you don't provide job descriptions during a negotiation.
Okay.
But I think it makes for a better negotiation.
Would it affect somebody's evaluation, job evaluation, if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing in their job? They're not doing it well, or they're doing more than they're supposed to be doing? Does that affect
It would give
anybody's,
us,
I'm going to keep you because you're doing a great job, or we're letting you go because you're not fulfilling your job?
it would give us
That's in the union negotiation, whether you let somebody go or not. Here's the salary.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we have job descriptions that are specific, then you have something to base your recommendations on, right?
I hope so. I don't know. I think the union negotiation determines how somebody, you can't reward anybody above with the union negotiation. You can't you have a process in your contract how you let people go
but for non-union positions.
on union positions.
So action steps are to send out the current job descriptions, get feedback, gather that feedback,
Figure out which ones are missing.
rewrite the ones with the feedback as appropriate, write the missing ones, and get some HR support to do the last two steps, which is rewrite the current ones to incorporate the new feedback, and write the missing ones. Is that something that could be done in 3 months? Is that realistic?
When do you want, my slight resistance here, the conversation. I want Anne Marie to focus on the budget and the audit.
Yeah, but what we're looking at doing here is Carol sending them out, we get the feedback back, then we entertain the possibility of hiring a resource, HR resource, come to you for the money to do that, you approve
Yeah.
it, that
Excellent.
person does it and gives us.
And so it takes it off of Anne Marie's plate
Exactly.
completely.
Excellent.
But
That's
you
like
get
my
what you
budget.
need, which
That's good.
is
Excellent, good.
job descriptions for everybody.
So what are we thinking?
So did that just get put on my plate?
No, yours is easy.
You are a good delegator. That's your plate, your plate. All right, I'm gonna send out the job descriptions. We'll start there.
And then, I don't know if we have a person in mind who could do that work, and get a sense of what it
Didn't
might
you say
be.
you do some-
We even know
Yeah, I know.
how many are
Do
missing.
you know some people?
I do.
Because I know some people too.
I know some.
And so we all know some people that are in the HR world that can help.
I
We got people.
I got people.
Just saying, we got people.
Smiley face in there.
Okay.
You know Sheila from our.
Yes.
And I'm happy, so I'm happy to retype it, so I could do that.
She'd be excellent.
Would we have to bid that out?
Isn't that good? We're talking
No,
about-
because it falls under professional.
It would fall under professional. Hope by the time we're moving in this direction, hopefully the new purchasing ordinance.
Yeah,
We're gonna live by that ordinance. But it's
Yeah, we
like-
are.
that's what I'm gonna say.
And then last but not least, done. Evaluation, change of pension investment firm. So.
So I know this seems tedious, but I gotta say, this is just terrific.
Well, you know what's good about it is
Fill in one more stuff.
during the budget workshops, we bring up all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can't do it now, so now I feel like,
It is it's satisfying to check them off.
yes.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. That was new business. Excellent new business.
Well, it was really old business.
A lot of non-board.
There's a thin line between new business and old business. All right, anyone else have any new business, or as Jackie likes to call it, old business? Absent that, do I have a motion for adjournment? So moved. Okay, all three, okay. Those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Those against, thank you.